Chapter 51, Part 1. Zhou Li continuously used War Trample to control Ding Qianjue. The two-handed sword kept slashing down. Although it failed to break Ding Qianjue's body-protecting energy, it consumed most of it. Judging from the scene, Zhou Li had the upper hand and kept suppressing Ding Qianjue. Defeat. The onlookers were stunned. No one expected that what was supposed to be the peak showdown between the Sword Saint and the Sword God would turn into this situation. The Shura fist that came out of nowhere is actually so powerful. They were shocked and frightened, and some even wanted to die. In the distance, on a tall building, Emperor Chengwu led a group of men and watched the battle from a distance. Seeing the Guangming Palace turned into a pile of ruins, Emperor Chengwu's eyebrows jumped sharply. When he saw that wherever the two of them went, the palaces collapsed and shattered. The originally majestic palaces became a mess, comparable to the forced demolition scene. He could no longer bear it and ignored the majesty of the king. He cursed the two people and sent cordial greetings to the families of Zhou Li and Ding Qianjue. The guards and ministers next to him looked at their noses with their eyes, and their noses looked at their hearts, but they all remained silent. They all lamented in their hearts. A decisive battle at the top of the Forbidden City. The winner will rule the world. What a compelling battle. Both Shangguan Yun and Ding Qianjue are people of status and status. Even if they fight to the death, they will not deliberately cause so much damage to their surroundings. Who would have thought that a monster like Zhou Li would appear? Not only was he terrifyingly powerful, but he would also move his hands without any inhibitions, and his movements would be ridiculous. When encountering such a character, the Forbidden City would be in serious trouble. After Trample was promoted to the rare level of War Trample, the consumption also increased a lot. It was not as powerful as Zhou Li and could not be used continuously. When the control was broken, Ding Qianjue finally regained control of his body. Ding Qianjue has never been so aggrieved. After being suppressed and slashed by Zhou Li, his anger level had already been filled up, and his anger was on the verge of exploding. He was preparing to go all out to kill Zhou Li and wash away his shame. Zhou Li was seen making a gesture of exerting force with his fists and kicks, and then, a terrifying power that made his face change drastically erupted from Zhou Li's body. Mountains, rivers, collapsed. Like a volcano erupting, the terrifying fist shook the world, the ground cracked, and the surrounding buildings collapsed. This time, Zhou Li did not use War Trample. With his current power of more than 6,000, the 70% power blessing of melee specialization, and the skill level of level 5, when he explodes with all his strength, he really has the power to collapse mountains and rivers. Boom! Ding Qianjue's offensive was easily broken down. This punch directly shattered his body-protecting chi, and terrifying power poured into his body. A mouthful of blood spurted out, and Ding Qianjue's body was like a cannonball, crashing into the palace complex behind him, knocking out a pile of rubble and drowning him. This is the first time Ding Qianjue has been injured since the start of the fight. Everyone was stunned. How long? Ever since Ding Qianjue reached the top and was revered as the Sword Saint, he had never been injured again, and no one had ever allowed him to be injured. Now, in full view of everyone, he was beaten until he vomited blood on the spot. What shocked them even more was Zhou Li. Zhou Li had been using a sword before, which was confusing. Where is Quan Chi and where is Shura Fist as promised? Result. They finally saw Shura boxing, which is famous all over the world for its boxing. But no one could have imagined that this fist would be so earth-shattering. Zhou Li stood there and did not pursue. The power of the mountains and rivers collapsing far exceeded that of killing the green-faced Ghost King, and the consumption also increased greatly. In a short period of time, it was difficult for him to hit a second punch. Boom! Where Ding Qianjue was buried, countless rocks and beams were thrown away. You really pissed me off. Ding Qianjue stared at Zhou Li, his hair moving automatically without wind, and a terrifying power gathered around him, making his momentum rise to an unprecedented peak. Countless tiny blades of light continued to emerge around him, making him look like a demon. Old guy, please be serious. Shangguan Yun, who had been watching, sighed. Zhou Li's expression became solemn. Shua, as if teleporting, Ding Qianjue appeared in front of Zhou Li. The long knife in his hand condensed a breathtaking light and slashed towards Zhou Li crazily. Ha 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 ha. See my true power. Chapter 51, Part 2. Have you thought about how you will die? Ding Qianjue, who entered the explosive state, became extremely arrogant. While he was talking wildly, his offensive did not stop. He slashed dozens of swords in an instant. Each sword could easily kill any first-class master, and around him the fine blade light that emerged continued to sink into the long knife, making his speed faster and faster, and the power of the sword light getting stronger and stronger. Even Zhou Li was at a complete disadvantage. The sword gleams left countless wounds on his body. Why don't you die? Why don't you die? Ding Qianjue's whole person seemed to be in a state of madness. Chong 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 chong. Amidst the constant clashing of weapons, Zhou Li suddenly made a light move in his hand, and the two-handed sword that had accompanied him through many bloody battles was cut into two pieces by Ding Qianjue. After all, it is only a sophisticated weapon, but the long sword in Ding Qianjue's hand is most likely rare. Coupled with the destructive power of the sword's light, it is of excellent quality if it can persist until now. Ha ha ha, die. Ding Qianjue laughed wildly and slashed at Zhou Li's neck with his knife. At this moment, his eyes narrowed slightly, and when he saw Zhou Li once again making that fist gesture that made him tremble with fear, he quickly retreated back without even thinking about it. The power of that punch was so powerful that even he now did not dare to take it head-on. It seems that my current strength is not enough to challenge Ding Qianjue and Shangguan Yun. A mountain and river collapse shot forced Ding Qianjue back, and Zhou Li sighed in his heart. It has to be said that the top-notch masters in this difficult dungeon are indeed incredibly powerful. Ding Qianjue's attributes should be around 7,000, which is a bit higher than Zhou Li, who was suppressed by 10%. That's it. None of the key skills, equipment, and techniques are bad. He is powerful in all aspects. Any shortcomings? Not to mention anything else, his rare skills must be at full level. Not to mention the tough body-protecting chi, the sword light that he wields casually, and the terrifying explosive state. Compared with the warriors other than Shangguan Yun in the dungeon, they are simply one dimension stronger. Zhou Li was now seriously injured, his weapons were broken, and after he used a move to collapse the mountains and rivers, he was no longer able to survive. Anyone who saw it would think that he had reached the end of the road. But do you think this is the end? Die. Ding Qianjue flew over at great speed, his sword flashing across the sky, and Zhou Li's head flew up. You are dead. Your talent has been triggered. Please choose to resurrect in place or in a safe place. 10, 9, 8. Resurrection on the spot. With a flash of light, Zhou Li appeared on the spot, with no injuries on his body and in peak condition. That's right. Facing a powerful enemy like Ding Qianjue, who was difficult to defeat, Zhou Li resorted to the extremely shameless resurrection method that he had not used for a long time. Chapter 52, Part 1. Zhou Li looked calm. He challenged Ding Qianjue and Shangguan Yun in order to learn from them the martial arts concepts and knowledge required for breakthroughs through fighting. As for who wins and who loses, it is not the point. For this purpose, it is reasonable to use the method of resurrection. What, if he couldn't defeat Ding Qianjue in one life? Would it affect his ability to become a strong man? Zhou Li said it didn't exist. Immortality is his talent. It is originally part of his strength. Defeating the opponent neatly is defeat, but relying on talent to grind him to death is not defeat. There is no such truth. You actually have such a secret technique? Ding Qianjue automatically ignored the abnormality of Zhou Li's resurrection from the dead and was only shocked by his return to full glory. The first round is over. Now let's start the second round. Zhou Li smiled. Ding Qianjue was not afraid. After a hard fight, Zhou Li was beheaded again. However, when the third round began, Ding Qianjue showed signs of fatigue, and the thin blade light that kept emerging around him no longer appeared. His explosive state obviously cannot continue forever. Zhou Li is not a weakling. Although the swords in both hands broke, which weakened part of his strength, it was not something that Ding Qianjue could easily defeat, especially after he was unable to maintain his explosive state. On the contrary, Zhou Li felt that Ding Qianjue was no longer effective as a sparring partner. You come too. The solution is also very simple, which is to drag Shangguan Yun into the water. Shangguan Yun had been watching the battle for a long time, and his hands were already itchy. However, as the leader of the righteous path, he naturally disdained to fight one against two, let alone take advantage of others' danger. However, when Zhou Li used war trampling on him again and again, the sword god was immediately angered and entered an explosive state. After killing Zhou Li's 3 lives, he also entered a period of weakness. The 3 of them fought in a melee, sometimes each fighting his own way, and sometimes the 2 of them joined forces to deal with the third party. Since Zhou Li can rely on resurrection to refresh his own status, he is often the one who is teamed up to deal with. However, Zhou Li didn't care at all. He eagerly absorbed the martial arts concepts and knowledge of the 2 top-notch masters and turned them into his own resources, not only in terms of skills, but also in melee specialization, Thunder Shadow Step and other skills. The experience value also increased rapidly. Everyone looked at the chaotic battle in stunned silence. No one thought that this peak battle would turn out like this. About there. Seeing that Shangguan Yun and Ding Qianjue were gradually showing signs of fatigue, and their strength was greatly affected, Zhou Li suddenly punched out both fists, repelling the 2 of them, and immediately moved his body and appeared in front of a man in black robes. With a backhand palm, the man in black robe was severely injured until he vomited blood, and Zhou Li held his head with his 5 fingers. This man in black robe was a first-rate master, and he had spared no effort in mocking Zhou Li before. Therefore, Zhou Li chose him as the lucky spectator without hesitation. What do you mean? Ding Qianjue gasped for breath and glared at Zhou Li. Obviously, the man in black robe was also a member of the underworld. This battle is over here. My goal has been achieved. Whether you can survive or not depends on your own fate. Zhou Li smiled slightly and glanced at the two of them. If the Great Qin Court had any backups, it would be time to use them. However, Zhou Li has no interest in participating in the subsequent plot. He has gained enough, and the time in this copy has been too long. It is time to return to the real world. Pa, the head of the man in black robe, shattered in response. As this third top master died in Zhou Li's hands, the main mission was accomplished instantly. System prompts sounded one after another. Congratulations on clearing the upgrade copy. Battle at the Forbidden Peak. Your evaluation is SSS and you have received the following rewards. Power Crystal * 500, Agility Crystal * 500, Constitution Crystal * 500, Spirit Crystal * 500, and Sophisticated Equipment, Cold Star Thorn. Since this is the first pass, your contribution is unparalleled. You will receive additional Power Crystals * 450, Agility Crystals * 450, Constitution Crystals * 450, Spiritual Crystals * 450, Sophisticated Skills, Great Compassion Palm, Sophisticated Props, Xiao Huan. Chapter 52, Part 2. Dan, Title, Pioneer. Since this dungeon is of high difficulty, you will receive generous rewards, including Strength Crystals * 1000, Agility Crystals * 1000, Constitution Crystals * 1000, Spirit Crystals * 1000, Rare Equipment, Cold Moon Demon Knife, and Rare Special Items, Micro Spiritual Veins. Your level is promoted to level 2. Your talent has been enhanced, adding 3 skill slots. You already have the title of Pioneer. The title will be automatically synthesized, and your title of Pioneer will change. Level Suppression skill upgraded to level 2. What a great harvest. Zhou Li sighed inwardly. Not to mention the amazing attribute crystals, there were even 2 rare items. You know, in theory, you have to wait until the 2nd and 3rd level dungeons before you have a chance to drop rare items. However, because this dungeon is of high difficulty and the highest combat power is 2 level 2 powerhouses, Zhou Li obtained this item in advance. First grade. Goodbye. Waving to the two of them, Zhou Li resolutely chose, exit the copy. Meanwhile, Blue Star. At the moment Zhou Li and others exited the dungeon, the system prompts rang in everyone's ears. World announcement. Congratulations to Zhou Li, Jiang Yu, Shi Tongyan, Wu Qianqian, and He Yuqing for clearing the level-up dungeon. The decisive battle at the top of the Forbidden City, becoming a 2nd-level Awakener, and the special reward title is Trailblazer. World announcement. It was detected that the Blue Star Awakener successfully cleared the difficult dungeon within the time limit and performed well. Zhou Li, Jiang Yu, Shi Tongyan, Wu Qianqian, and He Yuqing were awarded the title of Fearless, and the 0-level Awakener from Xia Kingdom was rewarded with +20 in all attributes. All attributes of 1st-level Awakened people are +200, and all attributes of 2nd-level Awakened people are +2000. It slightly increases the probability of Xia people awakening advanced talents, and rewards 0-level Awakened people from other countries with all attributes +10, and 1st-level Awakened people with all attributes +100. Yeah, another national reward? Ha ha ha, all attributes are +20, plus the previous +10. Even I, an F-level Talent Awakener, will soon be able to download the dungeon. It's so cool. I just lay down and took off. Master Zhou Li, you are the gods forever. Blue Star boils. Everyone fell into a carnival. Even the people from other countries stopped clamoring this time. After all, they were also the beneficiaries. At most, they were rich rewards from the sour summer country. More and more people are pointing the finger at the top teams in their own countries. If they hadn't been weak, most of the rewards would not have been taken away by Xiagua. The same scene happened in the sky above the Xia Kingdom. Countless streams of light poured down from the cracks in the sky, flowing on the land of the Xia Kingdom and spreading rapidly towards other areas of Blue Star. Many people subconsciously looked at the sky, and sure enough, the countdown to disaster changed again, becoming Demonized Monster, Ghost Level 25 days. Just when the top leaders of various countries were feeling happy and worried, another system prompt sounded. World announcement. Due to the outstanding performance of the Blue Star Awakener, a special reward will be given. The location where the alien monster will arrive will be revealed in advance, and the disaster dungeon will be opened. Chapter 53, Part 1. Copy of Disaster. What is that? At the moment they heard the system prompt, countless people in Blue Star showed doubts. It is easy to understand that it is easy to reveal the location of the alien monster in advance. It will have a huge effect on countries fighting against the upcoming ghost-level disaster. But this disaster copy is unheard of. Xinhai City, Extraordinary Management Bureau. I have no idea. Facing Liao Xiefeng's question, Lin Ming helplessly spread his hands, saying that he knew nothing. But I have already read it. There is no disaster dungeon in the dungeon list. This type of dungeon is named after disaster and should be very different from the current dungeon. Lin Ming said. Liao Xiefeng nodded in agreement. Immediately, all the countries in Blue Star took action to find out where the alien monsters had descended and where the disaster copy was. Due to your outstanding performance, the extraordinary aura comes again. Special reward. All attributes plus 2,000. Number of draws plus 3. Title. Fearless 1. Copy of Disaster. Zhou Li, who exited the dungeon and returned home, was also full of doubts. However, he quickly put it behind him. Whether it was finding the location of the alien monster or the disaster copy, he just left it to the authorities and the extraordinary administration. Jiang Yu would definitely contact him when the results were obtained. Zhou Li was more concerned about his harvest. The benefits brought by leveling up are really too great, not only the apparent system rewards, but also the accumulation of skills. Zhou Li has also completed it, and it's just waiting for him to take the initiative to make a breakthrough. The old rule is to look at talent changes first. There is no change in talent descriptions as when you advance to the first level. Zhou Li had expected it and was not disappointed. He carefully experienced the increase in the effect of his talent that makes breathing stronger. The attributes increased in 1 minute change from 0.5 to 1. After a while, Zhou Li showed a look of satisfaction. Although the increase was only doubled, the talent effect was permanent and continued to take effect. Over time, it was not a small amount. Increase all attributes by 1440 points in 1 day. In terms of attributes, the second order range is 1,000 to 10,000. Under normal circumstances, it takes me 7 days to break through the second order range. This speed is undoubtedly much slower than breaking through the 0 level category in half a day and breaking through the first level category in 1.5 days. Of course, this is only counting talents. Zhou Li had already considered this and learned the Blood of the Bull skill to make up for his lack of attributes. Coupled with various rewards, Zhou Li's growth rate has not been slowed down at all. Needless to say, there is no need to say much about the improvement of the inherent skill of rank suppression. Zhou Li looked at his title. Title: Pioneer, Fearless. Zhou Li's eyes first fell on the word Pioneer, and its detailed attributes were immediately revealed. Pioneer, type, title. A reward for awakened people who are brave and pioneering and full of enterprising spirit. All attributes plus 6%. Note: the added attributes are real attributes and are not suppressed by any skills, talents, etc. All attribute bonuses have been changed from the original 3% to 6%. That's great. Zhou Li looked happy. Zhou Li had already obtained the title of Pioneer when he first cleared the 0 level upgrade dungeon. After clearing the first level promotion dungeon for the first time this time, Zhou Li was still wondering whether he would be given a new title or whether he would simply not be given it because he could not obtain the same title. In both cases, it would not be surprising for Zhou Li to appear. Unexpectedly, he still won the title of Pioneer, and the two titles were automatically combined, doubling his attributes. What an unexpected surprise. Afterwards, Zhou Li looked at his newly acquired title, Fearless 1. Fearless 1 type, title. A reward for those who are brave and courageous and fearless of hardships and dangers. The realm of Kung Fu plus 1. Note: the level of skill can exceed the upper limit. Kung Fu realm? Zhou Li was stunned. He didn't expect that the new title would strengthen his skills. He quickly looked at his technique. 100 battles plus 1. Advanced Kung Fu, realm, peak. The techniques compiled and summarized from actual combat include both cultivation methods and combat experience with countless masters. Persistent practice can slowly improve physical fitness, strength plus 375, agility plus 375, constitution plus 500, and spirit plus 250. The more you fight, the stronger you become, and you can gain more experience in battle. Change. The state of the skill has changed from perfection to peak. Chapter 53, Part 2. It seems to be a new state after breaking through the upper limit. Regarding the description of the skills, more attributes have been added. As for the combat buff, although the description has not changed, Zhou Li believes that he has gained more experience than before. This title is awesome. Zhou Li's eyes were bright, and the improvement of his skills was different from his skills. Because there were only 4 realms, the improvement was huge every time he broke through a realm. Both titles add 1 level, and there is no doubt that the Fearless one has a higher bonus. Of course, it cannot be said that the Fearless is no-brainer than the Pioneer. After all, there is only one technique but many skills. Both have their pros and cons. After closing the attribute panel with satisfaction, Zhou Li began to take stock of the rewards for clearing the instance. Use the attribute crystal first. In the high difficulty dungeon, each attribute was rewarded with a total of 1,950 attribute crystals. After choosing to use it, the attribute crystals immediately turned into streaks of brilliance and poured into Zhou Li's body. At this moment, an unexpected system prompt sounded. Your physique has exceeded 10,000, and your spirit has exceeded 10,000. Your level is level 2. You have awakened your unique skill, Life Force Field. Zhou Li. Innate skill, Vitality Field? Zhou Li was a little surprised. He was no stranger to inherent skills. Rank suppression was an inherent skill. According to his understanding, this type of skill was one that everyone would awaken as long as they met the conditions. It was also the most difficult skill to change. No matter his talent or title, he can't change the attributes of level suppression. This can be seen from the fact that he can only be promoted to the second level after breaking through the same level. However, unlike rank suppression, which is awakened immediately as soon as you advance to a level, this new inherent skill has other requirements. Both the physique and the spirit have exceeded 10,000. I am the only one who can do it. Zhou Li was speechless. Among his 4 attributes, spirit is the lowest. When he first arrived in the imperial capital, he only had 5,500. By the time of the peak battle, it had exceeded 6,000. Adding in the 2,000 full attribute rewards and the 1,950 spiritual crystals just used, it was worth over 10,000. Meets the requirements for skill awakening. One can imagine how difficult it is for other second-level awakeners, who may have to wait until the third level to awaken. Moreover, the 2 attributes required are physique and spirit. Physique is just that. Basically, every awakened person can increase it more or less. Spirit is different. For those awakened people who do not have the main attribute of increasing spirit, they want to add it. Awakening this skill is undoubtedly more difficult. I don't know what attributes this skill has. Zhou Li was looking forward to it. After being promoted to the second level, he gained 3 more skill slots. Before he could hold on to the heat, his skill level was reduced by 1. Zhou Li could only hope that this skill was powerful enough. Chapter 54, Part 1. Life Force Field, Level. Second level, Type. Passive, Inherent Skills. Powerful life intensity inspires tough power, which is automatically triggered when attacked. The higher the physique, the higher the spirit, the tougher the life force field. Zhou Li was thoughtful. Suddenly, he slapped his arm. Just when his palms were about to touch, a white light film appeared without warning, blocking the blow. Bang! The white light film shook violently, but it didn't break. Nice. Zhou Li's eyes were slightly bright. With his current attributes and passive bonus, he could kill a bunch of top-notch masters in the Forbidden Summit dungeon with a slap, but he could not break this light film. It's a bit like Ding Qianjue's and Shangguan Yun's body-protecting qi, but it's stronger and easier to use. With his current strength, Zhou Li was confident that he could crush Ding Qianjue's body-protecting qi with one slap, and there would be no need to hit him for so long. More importantly, Zhou Li's body didn't feel any vibration at all. This shows that before this white light film is broken, other people's attacks cannot affect him at all. When Zhou Li fought with Ding Qianjue, although he failed to break his body-protecting qi at first, he was able to knock him away. If he replaced it with a life force field, it obviously wouldn't be possible. What a powerful skill. This characteristic alone is stronger than most defensive skills. It is also a passive skill that is automatically triggered and requires no extra effort at all. Just perfect. Next, Zhou Li tested the strength of the life force field. When not under attack, the life force field will not be activated. Once activated, it will instantly cover Zhou Li's entire body without any blind spots. The thickness of the life force field is 5 centimeters. Zhou Li guessed that the thickness is determined by his level. In other words, it is impossible to exceed this thickness before he reaches the third level. The spirit determines the magic resistance of the life force field, and the physique plays a greater role in determining the physical resistance and recovery speed of the life force field. The life force field is equivalent to a passively activated shield, which can be broken. After being slapped by Zhou Li before, the thickness of the life force field was only 2 centimeters. 10 minutes later, it returned to its complete state. Then Zhou Li smashed it completely, and then nothing happened. Obviously, it will take a long time for the vitality field to be regenerated. No matter what, Zhou Li was quite satisfied with this skill, and it was not a loss to occupy a skill position. Let's draw the lottery first. Not in a hurry to look at other items, Zhou Li chose the lottery. The familiar large disc appeared in front of Zhou Li. The same as the last lottery, the prizes were of the highest quality and were still rare, but the probability of getting them was higher. Start the lottery and finish all 3 draws. Congratulations on drawing a sophisticated item, Moon Spirit Fruit. Congratulations on getting the excellent material, Starry Night Grass. Congratulations on drawing a rare special item, Baijiao Powder Recipe. Zhou Li's luck in this lottery was obviously not as good as before, and he only got 1 rare item. At this time, Zhou Li had uncounted high-quality items in his hand, including Cold Star Thorn, Great Compassion Palm, Small Return Pill, Starry Night Grass, and Moon Spirit Fruit. The rare items are the Cold Moon Demonic Knife, the Miniature Spiritual Veins, and the Baijiao Powder Pill Recipe. The Cold Star Thorn was directly passed over. It was also a weapon, and with the rare level Cold Moon Demon Sword, Zhou Li was still interested in taking another look at it. The two-handed sword was broken, and the Cold Moon Demon Sword just replaced it. As for the sword, there is no passive bonus. It's not a big problem. Zhou Li plans to continue to expand the scope of application of melee specialization in the next step. He has long thought clearly that the current top weapons all come from dungeon drops. No one can decide what they will drop, not even Zhou Li. Instead of waiting for the sword that will be released at an unknown time, it is better to broaden the range of skills. Lung Yu Demon Sword, Quality, Rare, Type, Weapon. Sword Saint, Ding Qianjue's troops are indestructible, stained with the blood of countless people. and are deeply demonic. It is indeed Ding Qianjue's weapon. Zhou Li had expected it when he saw the Lingyue demonic sword. Now that he saw it, it turned out to be true. Old Ding is a generous man. Zhou Li couldn't help but give Ding Qianjue a thumbs up and praised him as a good person. Chapter 54, Part 2. Micro-spiritual veins, quality, rare, type, special items. The spiritual veins buried under the Shura demon cult can slowly increase the concentration of spiritual energy in the surrounding area. When he saw the specific properties of the miniature spiritual veins, Zhou Li couldn't hold himself back. Not only weapons, but also his own spiritual veins were donated. Ding Qianjue was so generous. He really made me cry to death. Micro-spiritual veins. I didn't expect that copy to have such a good thing. Zhou Li was a little surprised. People in that copy world are generally very powerful, especially Ding Qianjue and Shangguan Yun, who are even more powerful. The existence of this miniature spiritual vein is a reasonable explanation. There is nothing much to say about the Baichao powder pill recipe. After using it, you can learn a method of refining the pill, which is of no use to Zhou Li. After looking at the most attractive rare level items and other fine level items, Zhou Li was in no hurry to look at them. His eyes fell on the exercise column. After accumulating enough 100 battle techniques, it was time for him to take the initiative to break through. Breakthrough? Zhou Li's thoughts moved slightly, and the next moment, countless majestic memories exploded in his mind. In a trance, Zhou Li seemed to have experienced the life of a warrior. He practiced martial arts when he was young, and achieved great success in martial arts when he was young. Then he traveled around the world and challenged countless strong men, and no one could be his opponent. Then, he sat quietly on the top of a mountain for 10 years, and suddenly he had an epiphany and advanced to an unprecedented state. After a long time, Zhou Li slowly came back to his senses, feeling a little complicated. When he calmed down, he looked at the greatly changed technique. 100 Battles Martial Arts Code +1. Advanced Kung Fu, Realm. Xiaoqing. This is a complete martial arts classic that was created after countless battles and 10 years of meditation. It contains not only the cultivation method, but also the experience of fighting countless masters, as well as the secret method to unleash stronger power. Persistent practice can slowly improve physical fitness, strength +1,500, agility +1,500, physique +2,000, and spirit +1,000. The more you fight, the stronger you become. No matter who your opponent is, you can gain more experience in the battle. After 10 years of meditation, you figured out the secret method of explosion. After entering the explosive state, your strength +40%, agility +40%, physical fitness +40%, and mental +40%, outbreak state. Zhou Li's spirit was greatly boosted. After the breakthrough, the technique that changed from 100 battle techniques to 100 battles martial arts did not disappoint him. More comprehensive and more powerful. There is no shortage of attribute values and combat buffs, and there is also an additional burst state. The effect of the title of Fearless One makes the newly breakthrough 100 battles martial arts level reach a small level of success from the beginning. The explosive state of the Xiaoqing realm has a powerful effect of +40% for all attributes. You can imagine how powerful the explosive state of the peak realm will be beyond the realm of perfection. When he was in the dungeon before, Zhou Li was envious of the explosive state of Ding Qianjue and Shangguan Yun. Under normal circumstances, Zhou Li could fight with the two of them, but once they entered an explosive state, they could not be stopped. Now, he has it too. Chapter 55, Part 1. If it weren't for the inability to return to the upgraded copy, Zhou Li would have to go back and let the two of them feel the pain of being dominated by the explosive state. Contentedly closing the attribute panel, Zhou Li prepared to have a good rest. In the 3 days in the copy, he experienced too many battles, especially the final peak battle, which was extremely fierce. Although resurrection can restore the heyday, the mental fatigue is still unavoidable. When he woke up, it was already 10 hours later. After spending some time to solve the problem of food and clothing, Zhou Li logged into the Extraordinary Forum and started browsing the forum. There are still many posts praising them on the forum, but they are not mainstream. The most popular topic at present is the disaster copy. Some disaster copies have been found. These disaster copies are all located near the landing site of the alien monsters, which are very eye-catching. Unlike the trial copy and the upgraded copy, the disaster copy has no difficulty selection. Each copy has only one and is one time. Once successfully passed, it will be converted into a trial copy or upgraded copy of the corresponding level. At present, there is no example of successful clearance. Disaster dungeons also have levels, but they are not limited to awakeners of the corresponding level. For example, in the second-level disaster dungeon, you can enter with 0-level and first-level awakeners, and you can also enter with 3rd-level and 4th-level awakeners. Of course, there are no 3rd and 4th-level awakeners on Blue Star now. There is no limit on the number of people entering the dungeon. That's good news. Zhou Li nodded. The most troublesome thing about trial dungeons and upgrade dungeons is the number limit. If it weren't for the mandatory requirement of 5 people, he would be able to pass it faster alone. In addition, disaster dungeons are not permanent dungeons. They have a countdown on them, which is exactly the same as the countdown of disasters in the sky. Obviously, if Blue Star cannot solve these disaster dungeons before the ghost level disaster comes, they will appear in the world with the ghost level disaster and bring greater disasters to Blue Star. Huh? There are also strategy videos? Zhou Li was stunned. He just saw a very popular post with a real-life video provided by the strategy. I don't know if it was brought in with filming equipment or the talent effect of the Awakener. Click on the video and take a look. The person who filmed it was a foreigner, and Zhou Li couldn't tell which country it was from. The other party should be using the talent of an Awakener. A blonde, handsome man said a few words to the camera with an excited look. Zhou Li said that he only understood a small part. Then the camera zoomed up and took a panoramic view of the surroundings. A huge jade portal appeared in front of him, which was 30 or 40 meters high. The jade portal was entangled with an extremely rich black magic, giving people a strong sense of ominousness. There was a white aperture around the jade portal. At this time, 50 fully armed people stood in the aperture. Is this the copy in reality? Zhou Li looked at the jade portal curiously. Regardless of the trial copy or the upgraded copy, their entrances do not exist in reality. The Awakener can be directly teleported in by clicking the copy entrance on the attribute panel. This is the first time he has seen a real copy in reality. At this time, the blonde, handsome man said a few words with high momentum, which caused the shouts of other people in the aperture. Then, he walked to the jade portal and started the copy. There was a flash of light, and 50 people disappeared from their original place. Although there is no limit on the number of people, only those within the light circle will be teleported in. Zhou Li saw clearly that there was still room in the light circle, and there was probably room for another 50 people. The handsome blonde guy and others who teleported into the dungeon filmed the scenes in the dungeon. The sky was dark, the earth was as black as ink, and the vegetation and trees that came into view all grew weird and twisted. This is a world infected by evil spirits. The camera quickly rose up, overlooking the land below. Although it couldn't see very far away, it could still be seen clearly within a radius of several kilometers. The awakened people below have already taken action, divided into several teams, and explored in all directions. I don't know what the photographer did, but the awakened ones in the field of vision became very eye-catching and prominent, making it difficult for people to distinguish them. Soon, the awakened ones encountered their enemies. Because they were far away, they could not clearly see the appearance of the enemy and could only see black dots. Chapter 55, Part 2. These black spots, representing the enemy, are coming from a distance, like a tide, one after another, increasing in number. At first, the awakened team showed great strength and killed all the black spots. However, as the number of black spots increased at an alarming rate, they quickly couldn't hold it anymore and retreated towards the rear. The black spots quickly caught up and engulfed them. The army was defeated like a mountain. The camera began to drop, and the awakened ones who were still in the same place had a look of panic on their faces. They all chose to exit the dungeon, and the awakened ones surrounded by countless black spots also flashed the light of exiting the dungeon, while some of the ones with poor life-saving abilities remained in the dungeon forever. It is worth mentioning that the disaster dungeon does not have a number of dungeon resurrections. If you die in it, you are truly dead. At the end of the video, just before the photographer was about to exit the dungeon, he captured the fastest charging enemy, which were countless black wolves and black rabbits shrouded in rich black energy. The black wolf was somewhat similar to the 3 wolf monsters that Zhou Li killed in the hospital on the day when the whole nation was awakened, but they were even taller and more majestic, like tigers that chose people to devour. The black rabbit did not have the softness and obedience of a rabbit at all. Each muscle ferocious, full of fangs. Is this a demonized monster? It's all first level. Zhou Li's eyes flashed. Looking at the video, he couldn't get an accurate number, but the performance of these black wolves and black rabbits was no worse than the infected bodies in the beginning of Cataclysm copy. And it's also an infected person in difficult dungeons. It's no wonder that the awakened ones in the video were defeated so quickly. If they hadn't been able to exit the dungeon, they would have been completely wiped out in an instant. Although there are a lot of infected people in the beginning of Cataclysm copy, the main mission does not require killing all infected people. All you need to do is kill the infected bodies that were summoned during the boss battle. How can it be compared with the endless number of monsters in this disaster copy? I don't know what level of disaster dungeon these people have downloaded. Zhou Li looked at the reply below. The post went viral because of this video? What kind of situation is this? It's too scary. My scalp feels numb when I see so many monsters. Those monsters are so scary. I feel like any one of them can kill me. Are all disaster dungeons so exaggerated? What level is this dungeon at? Second level. The disaster dungeons discovered so far are all second level. It seems to be the lowest level. As for whether there are third level disaster dungeons, it is not yet known. Let me give you some popular science. What happened in the video happened in Australia. The one who conquered the dungeon is the only top team in Australia. Although there are no SSS-level Talon Awakeners in Australia due to its sparse population, there are still SS-level Talon Awakeners. There are more than a dozen of them. Don't look at them as they are vulnerable to the monster wave. In fact, all of them are First-Order Awakeners, and Blue Star is also a strong person. Chapter 56, Part 1. As soon as this reply came out, everyone was even more shocked. 51st-level Awakeners, including SS-level talents, failed miserably not long after they entered. The team members were dying and trying to escape. The disaster copy is so terrifying. Oh my god, the disaster dungeon is so difficult. When the ghost-level disaster officially comes, I can't even think about it. It will be a dead end. There is no need to be so pessimistic upstairs. A copy is a copy after all. At present, the strongest strength of our Blue Star is still a variety of high-tech weapons. The aperture outside the copy is only so big. It cannot be carried into an aircraft carrier, but it cannot be carried outside. That's a problem. Blue Star is our home court, so what are we afraid of? Australia's strength is limited, but our Xia country's strength is much stronger. Not only do we have the largest number of First-Order Awakened people in the world, we also have Second-Order Awakened people. Just wait for the great Master Zhou Li to take action to defeat these disaster copies. Zhou Li looked at it and smiled slightly. This video really scared a lot of people. The monsters in the trial dungeon and upgrade dungeon will not come to reality, but the disaster dungeon is different. They will really come. The ghost-level disaster may be more terrifying, but after all, it has not yet arrived, so there is no real feeling. Not only Xia Kingdom, people from many countries are calling on their top teams to resolve the disaster dungeon as soon as possible. A copy of the disaster? Zhou Li is more inclined to play the trial dungeon than to conquer the disaster dungeon. At least he should fill up the growth value first and see how the upgrade dungeon goes. He suspected that the second-level upgrade copy would also have limited time and high difficulty. The copy of the disaster is there, and it won't run away. There are still 25 days until the ghost-level disaster comes, so there is no need to be impatient. Just when Zhou Li was about to contact Jiang Yu and others to download the second-level dungeon, he suddenly felt startled and felt warm currents pouring out of his body, flowing to every part of his body, improving his physical fitness. Is this the blood of the barbarian bull finally reaching its full level? Zhou Li was speechless. Sure enough, when I opened the attribute panel, I saw that the skill blood of the bull had changed to LV10. It took so long to upgrade a sophisticated skill, especially the last level, which was beyond Zhou Li's expectation. He's already at level 2, but it's still level 9. No matter how much experience it requires to upgrade, it should have been upgraded long ago. It's a good thing. Zhou Li shook his head. He was about to download the dungeon. The breakthrough of the blood of the barbarian could improve his strength to some extent. He did not delay, and with a slight thought in his mind, he started the skill breakthrough. He was also a little curious about what the bull blood would look like after it broke through, and whether it was worth the long wait. Breakthrough. The next moment, it was as if countless flames exploded in his body, and extremely terrifying heat emerged out of thin air, soaking into his flesh, bone marrow, and other details of his body, enhancing the origin of his power. There was no intense pain, but endless power surged out of his body crazily, filling his whole body, giving Zhou Li a strong urge to wreak havoc. With great will, Zhou Li suppressed the urge to destroy and sent a message to Jiang Yu. Are you busy? If not, I'll place the book. Jiang Yu. Jiang Yu, are you going to download the copy so soon? We are looking for a copy of the disaster outside. Then wait a moment and I will inform Qianqian and the others. She was a little surprised. She didn't expect Zhou Li to write the book so soon. It is different from the fierce competition at level 0 and level 1. Due to the soaring difficulty of the first-level upgrade dungeon, there are currently only 5 of them in Blue Star's second-level Awakeners. This situation will not change in 4 days. In other words, those second-level copies are free for them to claim, and no one competes with them at all. Jiang Yu thought that Zhou Li would settle down for a day or two and further grow in strength before downloading the dungeon, but now that Zhou Li had brought it up, she would naturally cooperate as much as possible. Copy of disaster. Wait a minute. Zhou Li's expression moved slightly. It seems that compared to the trial dungeon, the terrifying number of monsters in the disaster dungeon can satisfy his strong desire for destruction now. You have found a copy of the disaster. Where's the closest one to Xinhai City? He sent a message. Jiang Yu had no doubt that he was there. The latest disaster instance is in Longyu City, 50 kilometers away. Good. Chapter 56, Part 2. After confirming the location, Zhou Li moved and left the house. He unleashed the Thunder Shadow Step and felt thunder exploding within his body, intertwined with the constant flow of warmth, causing his speed to climb to the extreme. Shua, like a strong wind, he passed through the street and easily surpassed the speeding cars. Passers-by could not even see his figure clearly. In less than a minute, Zhou Li left Xinhai City. Happy. This was the first time for Zhou Li to run so fast in the real world. In the city, he was still a little restrained. After all, he was afraid of hurting people. When he arrived in the suburbs, especially in no man's land, boom, the air in front became like steel, and then was shattered by his powerful body, erupting with a terrifying roar of thunder. In just a few minutes, Zhou Li crossed 50 kilometers and arrived at Longyu City. He jumped up onto a skyscraper and swept his eyes across the city. Zhou Li quickly found his target. The dozens of meters high dungeon portal is not conspicuous in a city, but don't forget that the disaster dungeon is located near the place where alien monsters descend. At this time, because of Zhou Li's outstanding performance, these locations were exposed. It was a place where time and space were distorted, covering an area of 1 kilometer. In this area, the space rippled like water waves, and occasionally the scene on the opposite side could be seen. Zhou Li also understood why the disaster copy was discovered so quickly. It would be strange for such a big movement not to be discovered as long as it was not in an inaccessible place. After glancing at the place where he landed, Zhou Li stopped paying attention. The time has not come yet, and the passage between the two worlds has not been opened, so they do not affect each other. From a high place, you can see that officials are evacuating residents near the landing site. However, in Zhou Li's opinion, the entire Longyu City may have to be evacuated, and this place will most likely become a battlefield for fighting alien monsters. Outside the place where time and space are distorted, a few hundred meters away, a jade portal that is somewhat similar to the disaster replica in Australia stands. Found it. Zhou Li rushed to his destination immediately, and his speed also slowed down. Who? His intrusion also alerted the troops stationed outside the dungeon door. You are Zhou Li. Soon, he was recognized. Now Zhou Li is a famous person, and his reputation in Xia country is at its peak. Great God, Zhou Li. Wow, I met a real person. A group of people looked at Zhou Li with bright eyes and reverence on their faces. If it weren't for their status and discipline, they would have turned into fans and surrounded him. Zhou Li had no expression on his face. After running at such a high speed from Xinhai City to Longyu City, he not only did not feel tired, but his mood became even higher, and he could hardly hold it back. In order not to scare these people, I simply pretended to be cold. With a movement of his body, Zhou Li appeared in front of the dungeon portal, and his consciousness communicated with him. The garrison was a little hesitant. Their duty was to prevent the idlers from approaching the dungeon portal, but Zhou Li should not be the idlers. While they were hesitating, they saw a flash of light in the circle of light, and Zhou Li disappeared and entered the dungeon. Chapter 57, Part 1. All the soldiers were stunned. They thought that Zhou Li came here out of curiosity about the disaster copy, so they did not stop him resolutely. Unexpectedly, Zhou Li entered the dungeon alone. This is a disaster copy. They had also seen the video posted by the Australian awakened person on the Extraordinary Forum and knew how terrifying the disaster copy was. All 51st level awakened persons were defeated in an instant. Although Zhou Li is a stronger second-level awakener, he is only one person. Quick, reported immediately. Xinhai City, Extraordinary Management Bureau. Deputy Director Liao Xiefeng looked at the consolidated information in front of him with an extremely solemn expression. Consultant Lin, what do you think? He looked at Lin Ming, who was sitting opposite. Facing a brand new copy like the disaster copy, the Extraordinary Administration, which was extremely lacking in relevant information, immediately contacted Lin Ming, the reborn person, after integrating information from various places. In my previous life, I have never seen any copy of the disaster. Lin Ming shook his head slowly and saw Liao Xiefeng's disappointed expression. He smiled slightly. However, I don't have my own opinions. Please speak. Liao Xiefeng perked up. There are fewer places where alien monsters come than in my previous life. You should know this. Lin Ming Dao. Liao Xiefeng nodded. Lin Ming naturally did not hide the location of the alien monster. After the world announcement appeared, he immediately informed the Supernatural Management Bureau. However, the local branches only found half of it, and there was no abnormality in the remaining places. Obviously, because the time was shortened by 60 days, there was a big difference between the ghost-level disasters in the past life and this life. Extraordinary management bureaus across the country sent out manpower to search for other places to descend, but unfortunately, little was gained. I thought at first that the place of arrival had changed, but now, I have a new guess. Lin Ming said solemnly. The corresponding alien monsters behind the place of arrival were actually transformed into copies of the disaster. Not necessarily all, but at least part of it. This means that the alien monsters that originally came together have been divided into two parts. Hearing this, Liao Xiefeng was overjoyed. If this is indeed the case, the existence of the disaster copy is undoubtedly a good thing for Blue Star. As long as they are solved in advance, it will not only enhance Blue Star's strength, but also weaken the intensity of ghost-level disasters. But soon, Liao Xiefeng's face fell. The problem is there, but I can't solve it. The disaster dungeons are all second-level dungeons. Perhaps because they are transformed from the real world, the number of monsters inside is extremely large. The manpower we sent could only advance to the outside at most, but they were hit by the monster wave and had to retreat from the dungeon. Even the second-level dungeons, no monsters were seen. Liao Xiefeng sighed. Australia was not the only one who had entered the disaster dungeon. How could a second-level copy only have a first-level copy? In this level of dungeon, the first level is just cannon fodder, while the second level is the main force. If there is progress in the dungeon, I'm afraid their progress is only in single digits, not even 10%. Lin Ming thought for a while and said, I suspect that the monsters in the disaster copy will not be refreshed. After all, they are all real demonized monsters. Even if they can only kill a few each time, they will be able to be pushed to the end sooner or later if they continue to accumulate. Having said that, the disaster dungeon has a cooldown. The cooldown time for the second-level disaster dungeon is 1 day. As long as someone enters the dungeon, the next time they enter will have to wait until 24 hours later. Liao Xiefeng said with a bitter smile. The existence of copy cooling will undoubtedly increase the difficulty of the strategy. For a special copy like the disaster copy, every time you enter it, it is very important. The second-level disaster dungeon is called a 100-man dungeon. The optimal team size is 100 people. According to the instructions above, it is necessary to gather strong enough members to enter the dungeon. Even if it cannot be conquered in one go, it must be greatly weakened and strive for past twice. Liao Xiefeng said solemnly. Monsters from other worlds came in pursuit of extraordinary auras, and the 2 additional arrivals landed in the Xia Kingdom. Therefore, the Xia Kingdom had the most places to descend. They are under a lot of pressure. I'm afraid, we need to ask Zhou Li to take action, Liao Xiefeng said solemnly. He has no confidence in his heart. Chapter 57, Part 2. Zhou Li was not from the Extraordinary Management Bureau, and they did not dare to give orders to Zhou Li. Every contact with the future Demon King must be done with caution. At this moment, he received a message, and his expression suddenly changed. What? Zhou Li entered the disaster dungeon in Longyu City alone. He never expected it. Before they could invite him, Zhou Li took the initiative to enter the disaster dungeon. However, he was the only one. Consultant Lin, do you think Zhou Li can pass the customs? Liao Xiefeng couldn't help but ask Lin Ming. Lin Ming was also stunned by Zhou Li's operation. He couldn't answer. At the same time, Zhou Li was completely different in his previous life. He didn't know what level Zhou Li could achieve in this life. Although Zhou Li had already proven his strength by passing through many dungeons for the first time, this disaster dungeon was a brand new dungeon after all, completely different from the trial dungeon and the upgrade dungeon. Not to mention, Zhou Li entered alone. Whether to enter the disaster copy, Thunder Valley, warning. The disaster copy is a real scene. Once you die, you cannot be resurrected, warning. This copy has a cooling time. Once it is opened, it must be at least 24 hours before you can enter again, warning. After successfully clearing this dungeon, it will be converted into a trial dungeon or an upgraded dungeon. Enter. Zhou Li didn't hesitate at all. After entering the dungeon, Zhou Li appeared in a dark valley. Endless demonic energy filled the sky and earth, and visibility was very poor. Rumbles of thunder resounded across the sky and earth, and lightning appeared from time to time, tearing apart the night. The valley is so big that you can't see the end at a glance, and there are a lot of alien monsters wandering around it. Australia's Awakened team still has some buffers. The disaster copy in Longyu City was directly teleported to the monster den. Zhou Li's eyes swept across the alien monsters around him, and what he saw alone numbered thousands. Judging from the disaster dungeon in Australia, this was only a very small part of the monsters in the dungeon. The condition for passing the level is to destroy all monsters? After looking at the customs clearance conditions, Zhou Li showed a satisfied smile. Just what he wanted. The countdown ended, and Zhou Li officially entered the dungeon. Thousands of alien creatures, filled with demonic aura, immediately spotted Zhou Li. After being slightly startled, they immediately launched an attack. Without even looking at these attacks, Zhou Li suddenly raised his head and let out an extremely loud whistle. The huge sound wave was transmitted wildly in all directions, immediately alarming countless alien monsters and rushing towards Zhou Li's position. Seeing Zhou Li ignoring them, the alien monsters were extremely angry and attacked one after another. However, when they were about to touch Zhou Li's body, a 5-centimeter thick white light film appeared out of thin air, blocking all attacks. No matter how they attack, they can't shake this white light film at all. The roars continued. If Zhou Li could understand their language, he would understand that they were shouting something like, "Impossible. This is absolutely impossible." Just when these alien monsters were in disbelief, a pair of eyes filled with endless killing intent suddenly stared at them. The killing begins. Chapter 58, Part 1. Boom. With Zhou Li as the center, within a radius of 50 meters, the earth shook violently, countless cracks appeared, and countless mud and rocks flew up, hitting the alien monsters. The level increase of War Trample does not increase the scope of the skill, but increases the area damage and stun time. At this time, in order to besiege Zhou Li, There were hundreds of alien monsters piled up in the 50-meter range. They all vomited blood and fell to the ground at this foot, losing their vitality. Schwa. Immediately afterwards, Zhou Li chose a direction with the most alien monsters and launched the Thunder Shadow Step. Strong thunder exploded in the body, intertwined with the continuously emerging warm current, turning Zhou Li into a thunder shadow, and rushed out 100 meters in an instant. The bodies of the alien monsters along the way were all smashed, and the bodies of the alien monsters were forced to come in an endless stream. In the tide of monsters, a path of flesh and blood was opened up. Even Zhou Li was a little surprised by the power of this attack. I originally thought that at most the alien monsters would be hit with broken bones and tendons and die violently, but I didn't expect that they would die so completely, even the corpses would be shattered. However, Zhou Li quickly understood that his current physical attributes were no longer what they used to be. His faster speed and stronger body allowed him to instantly transform into an indestructible humanoid weapon as soon as he charged up, let alone these otherworldly weapons. He is such a monster that even an extremely thick concrete wall in front of him will be smashed into pieces by him. So, next. Swish, 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 Zhou Li transformed into a thunderbolt and sprinted madly amidst the tide of monsters. Wherever he went, alien monsters were shattered to pieces. In the blink of an eye, thousands of alien monsters died. The disaster copy is a real transformation of the world, and the alien monsters in it are also real. They will also be afraid, and they will be frightened. Facing an unrivaled and powerful enemy like Zhou Li, they should have collapsed long ago, but in a certain under the trend of these forces, they are not afraid of death and launch attacks one after another. Zhou Li didn't care at all. So far, all of them are first-level monsters, and not even a second-level monster has been seen. He didn't think that there were only first-level monsters in the copy. The main force of the second-level copy must be the second level. They didn't appear. They were just using the lives of massive first-order alien monsters to consume Zhou Li. Zhou Li understood in his heart. But does it matter? Not important at all. Filled with a strong desire to kill, he only had one thought. Kill as many as he came. After the fight was over, Zhou Li took out the Cold Moon Demon Sword. This weapon of Ding Qianjue is 2 meters long, with a silver blade that exudes a cold and sharp edge, and a streak of blood flowing on its surface adds a touch of evil to it. With the magic knife in hand, Zhou Li began to kill. This rare weapon that once cut off two-handed swords is extremely sharp, and coupled with Zhou Li's powerful power, even without the passive bonus, there is no single enemy among first-level alien monsters. With one strike, it exploded into a ball of blood mist. As tens of thousands of alien monsters died under the sword, a thick glow of blood emerged from the demonic sword, extending 2 meters out, almost doubling Zhou Li's attack range. Although the 2-meter blood-colored blades are not as sharp as the main body, they still possess extraordinary power. Zhou Li could feel that the alien monsters killed by the blood-colored blade had a trace of life force being absorbed and transferred back to Zhou Li's body, slowly restoring his physical strength. As expected of a magic sword, Zhou Li sighed inwardly that he actually had blood-sucking properties. After all, this is a world where micro-spiritual veins exist, and some supernatural phenomena are normal. Presumably Ding Qianjue has not tapped into the potential of the Cold Moon Demon Sword. No matter how bloodthirsty Ding Qianjue is, he will not kill tens of thousands of people at once. At this time, the alien monsters who died under Zhou Li's sword, more than tens of thousands. The only pity is that Zhou Li can't sever the sword light like Ding Qianjue. The two of them have taken different paths. Even though Zhou Li is now far stronger than Ding Qianjue, he still cannot release his true energy. As Zhou Li continued to kill, both sides were furious. These alien monsters were originally creatures infected by demonic energy. They were naturally bloodthirsty. Stimulated by the strong smell of blood, they had long since lost their fear, and the only thought left in their minds was the thought of tearing the enemy into pieces. Chapter 58, Part 2. A few hours later, Zhou Li could no longer remember how many alien creatures had died under his hands. All he knew was that all he could see was blood. The flesh and blood of alien monsters covered every inch of the valley, dyeing it black and red. Boo! The white light film surrounding Zhou Li had already become extremely weak after enduring a large number of attacks. After being attacked again, it finally shattered and disappeared. The reason why he has been able to persist until now is not only because of the strength of his life force field, but also because Zhou Li is extremely fast. There are very few attacks that can fall on him, and he has a certain recovery ability. The skill of life force field is quite idealistic. It will not be triggered when Zhou Li attacks, and will only appear instantly when he is attacked. Seeing that the extremely tough white light film finally shattered, the surrounding alien monsters let out roars of ecstasy. They finally saw it, killing Zhou Li's hope. At this time, roar, one after another, huge black tigers, black wild boars, and black bears walked out of the darkness. The surrounding first-order monsters hurriedly retreated. Second level. It's finally out. A sneer appeared at the corner of Zhou Li's mouth, So what if he was at the second level? What he relied on was not a life force field. Zhou Li refused to retreat but advanced, charging into the group of second-level monsters. The blood-colored magic knife in his hand fell down, taking away the lives of each second-level monster. Facts have proved that the second-order monsters are still vulnerable to Zhou Li. They are stronger than the first-order monsters in that they can still retain some body parts. The killing continues. An hour later, the life force field reappeared, which also let Zhou Li know how long it would take for his life force field to restart. I do not know how long it has been. Zhou Li held the Lengyue demonic sword in his hand and stood there panting. There was not a single living creature as far as the eye could see. Zhou Li suspected that he had killed more than 1,000,000 alien monsters. This is undoubtedly a tough battle. Especially after the large number of second-level monsters appeared, it put great pressure on Zhou Li. The life force field was shattered 6 times. If it weren't for the power of the life force field and the blood-sucking properties of the Cold Moon Demon Sword, Zhou Li would have been unable to hold on and would have been killed. Even so, he was already close to running out of gas. A hint of wild aura escaped from Zhou Li's body. The constant warmth in his body had disappeared. The breakthrough of the bull's blood was successful. Zhou Li only knew that he had become extremely powerful, but he didn't have time to check. Because the battle is not over yet. Second-level monsters such as black tigers and black boars are all average in strength. They are considered elite monsters at best. They are still far from becoming boss. Coming. Suddenly, Zhou Li's eyes narrowed slightly, and he looked at the sky. He saw huge figures appearing in the sky and flying towards Zhou Li's location. It was a falcon-like creature, wrapped in black air, with lightning flowing on its surface. It had a wingspan of more than 20 meters, comparable to a blue star fighter jet. The strongest combat power of this disaster dungeon finally appeared. Coming out at this time, these Thunder Eagles obviously saw that Zhou Li was at the end of his strength. A sinister smile appeared on Zhou Li's lips. The useless thing that has been hiding has finally dared to come out. Outbreak state, turn on. The next moment, endless bloody light rose into the sky. Zhou Li jumped hundreds of meters high and struck the head of the Thunder Eagle at the front with a knife, blasting its huge head into pieces. The huge body of Thunder Eagle fell from the sky. Zhou Li, who was covered in blood, looked at the other panicked Thunder Eagles with kind eyes. Little chickens, don't worry. I'm sending you on your way. Chapter 59, Part 1. The explosive state of the 100 Battles martial arts code undoubtedly originated from Ding Qianjue and Shang Yuan. However, Zhou Li's explosive state was different from the two of them. He does not have strong qi cultivation, nor has he understood any sword intention or sword intention. The explosive state stimulates his body's potential. Therefore, the physical qi and blood are burning like flames, forming a bloody flame around him. It looks like it is somewhat similar to the blood-colored blade of the Cold Moon Demon Sword, but in fact it is fundamentally different. As the explosive state turned on, Zhou Li, who had run out of energy, felt infinite power emerging from his body, pushing his physical fitness to an unprecedented peak. At this time, Zhou Li, who had experienced a bloody battle for an unknown amount of time, gained a lot of experience in the battle and had already reached the level of the 100 Battles martial arts code. All attribute bonuses in the burst state also become 60%. What a concept. Zhou Li in his normal state has already killed countless monsters in the dungeon. The second-order Thunder Eagles he killed did not dare to show up. Now, his strength has increased by 1.6 times. Even if this state can only last for a while, these second-order Thunder Eagles can still deeply understand what despair is. Bang 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 bang. Every time Zhou Li jumped up, a second-order Thunder Eagle would inevitably fall. Clouds of blood mist exploded in the air, and the huge body fell from the sky like dumplings. The strength of these second-order Thunder Eagles is not weak. Each one is stronger than Ding Qianjue, but they are still vulnerable to Zhou Li today. Attacks are completely useless. They can't even hit, and even if they hit, they can't break the life force field. Desperately, he tried to distance himself, but found that it was already too late. In the blink of an eye, all the second-order Thunder Eagles were wiped out. They couldn't survive the end of Zhou Li's explosive state. Well, are there any fish that slipped through the net? Zhou Li frowned slightly when he didn't hear the system prompt to clear the dungeon. It seems that although most of the alien monsters in the dungeon were driven away by those second-order Thunder Eagles, there were still a very few missing, or they were killed by Zhou Li, and their fear of Zhou Li was defeated. Killing intent, running away regardless? Not a big problem. Although this dungeon of disaster has an extremely large group of monsters and an extremely large number of alien monsters, the scope of the dungeon is not that large. It is far less than the dungeon of the Battle of the Forbidden City. It is equivalent to a city in Xia Kingdom, with a radius of dozens of just kilometers. With Zhou Li's speed, it wouldn't take long to kill all the monsters in the dungeon. Longyu City, outside the disaster dungeon. Jiang Yu and Wu Qianqian rushed to the scene. He Yuqing and Shi Tongyan were in other cities and were far away, so they did not come over. Although Lin Ming and the top management of the Extraordinary Management Bureau did not come, They still kept track of the changes in the copy through the two women. Oh, I feel like I have lost 100 million because I didn't get a ride from Mr. Zhou Li this time. Wu Qianqian cried sadly, feeling like she had lost blood. Zhou Li has his own reasons for not taking us with him. Jiang Yu rolled his eyes at Wu Qianqian. Although she didn't know Zhou Li's strange behavior, she could guess some of it. Don't forget, the disaster copy is a real scene. If you die, you can't be resurrected. He should not be sure to protect us. Wu Qianqian shuddered and stopped talking as if she thought of the terrifying monster wave in Australia's disaster dungeon. Even if her current strength is ranked among the top in Blue Star, she has no confidence that she can last long in such a wave of monsters. On the side, a little girl with a round face and a delicate face looked at the two of them with envy. She is from the Longyu City Supernormal Administration Bureau. After all, this dungeon is on the territory of Longyu City. The Extraordinary Management Bureau here should have first-hand information about the dungeon in order to respond, so it is normal that there will be personnel there. In fact, after receiving the news that Zhou Li had entered the dungeon, Longyu City's Extraordinary Administration sealed off the scene. However, what the people in the Longyu branch did not expect was that they quickly received a death order from their superiors, ordering them not to act rashly. Then, the highest command was handed over to Jiang Yu, who came over. Jiang Yu didn't waste any words. No matter what their intentions were, good or bad, he just asked them to leave. However, considering their position, the round-faced girl who seemed obedient was left behind. Chapter 59, Part 2. I'm so envious of you for being able to team up with Master Zhou Li. The round-faced girl's face was full of envy, but what she couldn't figure out was that according to Wu Qianqian and Jiang Yu, Zhou Li was originally rushing to enter this time. Going through customs? Everyone in the Longyu branch, including her, thought that Zhou Li was going in to see the difficulty of the dungeon, kill a wave of monsters, and reduce the intensity of the strategy. She didn't hide it and asked curiously, "Little sister Lier, you don't understand this." Wu Qianqian chuckled and patted Qin Lier on the shoulder. "Do you know what my lowest attribute is now? More than 3,000. Without waiting for Qin Lier to answer, she directly gave the answer. How many? Qin Lier's eyes widened in shock. This is more than 3,000 attributes, and her 4 major attributes combined are less than half, and it is still the lowest attribute. You can imagine how strong Wu Qianqian's main attribute is. Wu Qianqian was extremely proud. It has to be said that the 2,000 all attributes rewarded by everyone are so delicious. In addition, after being promoted to the second level, the attribute enhancement talent effect also added 1,000 for all attributes, making the lowest attributes she did not add much exceed 3,000. Other awakened people with S-level talents have long been dumped by Wu Qianqian. It is no exaggeration to say that just looking at the attributes, Wu Qianqian is even worthy of those top cheaters. Why am I so strong? Because I teamed up with the boss Zhou Li and became his big brother. Wu Qianqian said proudly. You have to know that there is a miracle called Zhou Li. As long as you have teamed up with Zhou Li, you will know why we have so much confidence in him, because in front of Mr. Zhou Li, we don't know what difficulty is. What I say is false. Only by actually forming a team with Mr. Zhou Li can you understand the feeling of being taken flying. It's a pity that you have no chance. The last sentence directly knocked Qin Lier down. She stopped talking and just wanted to be quiet. Jiang Yu did not participate in the conversation between the two, but only occasionally glanced at the jade portal. 10 hours after Zhou Li entered, she was surprised to find that a thick layer of blood covered the jade portal. Look! Wu Qianqian also noticed the changes in the jade portal. Jiang Yu and Qin Lier looked over quickly. I saw 2 lines of numbers suddenly appeared on the jade portal. Level 2, 0/67022. First level, 805612/1528730. The 3 of them noticed that the numbers in front of the first level row were increasing at an alarming rate. I understand. These 2 lines of numbers represent the number of alien monsters in the copy. Wu Qianqian said loudly. She has never entered the disaster dungeon, but she still knows the conditions for passing it. I see. When more than half of the monsters in the dungeon die, specific numbers will be displayed. Jiang Yu nodded. After thinking about this, the 3 women looked at each other and could see the horror in each other's eyes. In other words, Zhou Li killed 800,000 first-level alien monsters in the dungeon. Chapter 60, Part 1. 800,000 alien monsters? Boss Zhou Li is killing them like crazy. Wu Qianqian's face was filled with shock. Although she had known for a long time how powerful Zhou Li was and how he often performed miracles, the 800,000 kills still shocked her. What made her feel a little frustrated was that they were all lagging behind. After Zhou Li went solo, his performance was even more amazing. Even veteran team members like Wu Qianqian were so shocked, let alone Qin Lier, who had a dull look on her face and forgot to send a message to the people in Longyu branch. No, 800,000 is not the end point. Jiang Yu said calmly. She is the fastest to accept. Zhou Li's killing continued, with no intention of slowing down. Let's send the news back first. Jiang Yu sighed. Chen Liar woke up from a dream and quickly sent a message to her captain. Zhang Yu also sent a message to Liao Xiefeng and Lin Ming to explain the situation. Those who received the news were all shocked. They never expected that they would get more information about the disaster copy in such a way. More than 1.5 million for the first level, and more than 60,000 for the second level. Although it is only the disaster dungeon in Longyu City, it does not mean that the same is true for other dungeons, but they are both second level, so it is not much different if you think about it, and the number of monsters in the disaster dungeon in Australia is also extremely astonishing. Most likely, millions of otherworldly monsters are the norm. These are not millions of ants. The weakest alien monsters are all at level 1. Each of them is an infected body that is comparable to the difficulty dungeon of the beginning of Catastrophe and can defeat most of the awakened people in Blue Star. So many otherworldly monsters, with such high intensity, how about hitting them on the head? There is really someone who can beat the person who made them speechless and choked. At this moment, whether people knew the inside story or not, their admiration for Zhou Li reached an unprecedented level. The miracles created by Zhou Li are still continuing. He seemed to be tireless, constantly refreshing the number of enemies killed. Although it slowed down later, he gradually reached the upper limit of the number of first-order alien monsters. When the second-level numbers suddenly began to grow, the speed was very fast, and more people fell silent. Anyone can see that it has become a fact for Zhou Li to clear the level alone. More than 1.6 million. Is this still a human being? World announcement. Congratulations to Zhou Li for clearing the disaster dungeon, Thunder Valley, and receiving the gift of Blue Star World Will. World announcement. Disaster dungeon. Thunder Valley has been transformed successfully, and Blue Star Awakeners can choose the corresponding dungeon among the first and second-tier dungeons to enter. As soon as the two system prompts came out, the whole world was shocked. What's going on? Is there something wrong with my ears? Is it really a copy of the disaster? Zhou Li, it's Zhou Li again. I'm numb. Yesterday, I was still trembling at the horror of the disaster dungeon in Australia. Tell me today, is there a disaster dungeon that has been passed? Or is it just one person? I must have woken up early and hallucinated. Am I the only one curious about what Zhou Li got? This is an unprecedented disaster copy. Countless people were shocked, doubtful, and unbelievable, and a large number of people were curious about what reward Zhou Li received. The gift of Blue Star World will sounds quite high-end and classy. Don't look at me. I don't know anything. Extraordinary Management Bureau, Xinhai Branch, facing Liao Xiefeng's probing gaze, Lin Ming helplessly spread his hands. He had never seen the disaster dungeon in his previous life. So how could he know what the reward would be after clearing the level? As for Blue Star's World Will, he knew of its existence, but had never come into contact with it. Many people even believe that the so-called will of the Blue Star World is Zhou Li's will. In the dungeon, Zhou Li listened to the system prompts. Congratulations on clearing the disaster dungeon, Thunder Valley. Your contribution is 100%. Please choose whether to merge the world fragments into Blue Star or convert them into the origin of the world. World fragments. Zhou Li was slightly stunned. He did not expect that the rewards for clearing the disaster dungeon were completely different from those of the trial dungeon and the upgrade dungeon. There are no attribute crystals, no items such as equipment skills, and no titles. What surprised him even more was that this Thunder Valley was actually a fragment of the world. Was it a part of the world where demonized monsters existed, forming a copy of the disaster? No wonder it's so true. How to choose. Chapter 60, Part 2. Zhou Li regained his somewhat distracted mind, pondered for a while, and made a decision. Thunder Valley is a fragment of the world infected by demonic energy. If it is rashly merged into Blue Star, no one can predict what will happen. The risks are unknown, and it is not a safe choice. Convert it into the origin of the world, Zhou Li said. With a flash of light, Zhou Li was teleported out of the copy. The fragments of the world were about to be transformed, and even the copy was gone, so naturally he couldn't stay in it. Seeing Zhang Yu and others outside, Zhou Li nodded and said hello. Immediately, he noticed something and looked at the jade portal behind. Zhang Yu and the others came up to them and were about to speak, but they also paused and looked at the jade portal in unison. I saw this copy portal that was entangled with demonic energy and was tens of meters high. Starting from the top, it was shattered inch by inch, and finally turned into a chaotic airflow with countless rays of light flowing, and disappeared into the void. What happened? Chen Liar's eyes widened. Zhang Yu and Wu Qianqian looked at Zhou Li without thinking. It was obvious that such a change in the disaster copy was definitely related to Zhou Li. Zhou Li did not respond, and a new system prompt rang in his ears. The world fragment has been successfully transformed, and its world origin has been absorbed by Blue Star. You have received the gift of Blue Star World Will, in the process of being nurtured, and unlock the corresponding permissions. Please make your choice. Permission 1. Make money every day. Every time the first and second level dungeons transformed by Thunder Valley are cleared, you will receive additional benefits, including attribute crystals, skill equipment, and other items. The specific benefits are as follows. Permission 2. Keep improving. Your drop rate increases, you have a chance to break through the upper limit and get higher quality dungeon rewards. These two permissions. Zhou Li originally thought that there would be no profit from playing the disaster dungeon, but that it would only solve the crisis faced by Blue Star. Who would have thought that he would get such a big surprise? Both of these permissions are very powerful. First, look at the permissions to make money every day. Zhou Li clicked on the specific income and found that it was a dense list, all of which were the drop rewards of the two copies. There was a progress bar behind each reward. Once the progress bar was full, it reached 100%. This reward will be cashed out and go directly into Zhou Li's system backpack. Every time these two dungeons are cleared, the progress bar of all rewards will increase accordingly. Of course, Zhou Li hasn't made a choice yet, and the two dungeons haven't been cleared yet, so he can't see the specific growth rate yet. But that didn't stop Zhou Li from seeing its bright future. There are so many awakened people in Blue Star. Although there are not many first-level awakened people now, as time goes by, there will definitely be more and more. As long as some people choose to brush the copy of Thunder Valley, even if one person can only contribute a little, which adds up to an extremely huge number. Making money every day is not a lie. Chapter 61, Part 1. It's all about making money while lying down. Zhou Li sighed with emotion. He looked at another authority, excellence. This permission is also easy to understand. Each dungeon reward has its own drop rate, which is affected by various factors, such as clearance evaluation, whether the growth value is full, etc. After the drop rate is increased, there is no doubt that Zhou Li's income will also increase. The original ordinary level rewards will become excellent level, and the excellent level will become rare. What excites Zhou Li the most is the possibility of breaking through the upper limit and obtaining higher quality rewards. This point is particularly important. The rewards for the first level dungeon are the highest level, which is the advanced level. Because of the high difficulty level, he received the rare level reward. This is not the norm. But after Zhou Li chose this authority, there was a glimmer of possibility. If you are lucky enough, you might be able to get a perfect level dungeon reward at the second or third level. Of course, Zhou Li also knew very well that for just clearing a second level disaster copy, the reward given could not be too exaggerated. The probability of getting a higher quality reward was definitely very low. Which one to choose? Zhou Li hesitated for a moment and made a decision. Permission 1 is very good, but to Zhou Li, the only valuable thing is the attribute crystal. There is no use in giving other rewards no matter how much they are given. He has long looked down on the rewards of the first level dungeon. When most people can clear the second level dungeon, he may not even pay attention to the rare level. As for attribute crystals, they are of relatively low importance to Zhou Li. Comparing the two, it was definitely the higher quality dungeon rewards that attracted Zhou Li. After all, he could rely on his talent to break through the skills, but he couldn't do anything with equipment, props, and other items. I choose permission 2. You have obtained the permission. Keep improving. Zhou Li looked at his attribute panel. As expected, there was an additional permission on it, and there was LV1 behind excellence. I wonder if my talent will be of use to it? Zhou Li thought for a moment and thought of some possibility. If it could be effective, that would be great. But after thinking about it, Zhou Li felt that there was little hope. The talent only affected himself, and the authority was obviously related to Blue Star's world will. Pregnant. Zhou Li was thoughtful and thought of the system prompt he heard before. It seems that the arrival of extraordinary spiritual light will also be of great benefit to the planet Blue Star. Zhang Yu and Wu Qianqian looked at Zhou Li with burning eyes. They also heard the world announcement and were very curious about what the so-called gift of the world's will was. But they are very measured. Zhang Yu knew the inside story. Although Wu Qianqian didn't know that much, she was also a smart person and had noticed some clues. Although it was impossible to guess who the reborn person and the future Demon King were, she also understood that Zhou Li was special. This specialness is not because of his strength, but for other reasons. The two teammates who were close to Zhou Li remained silent, and Chen Liar, a little transparent person, did not dare to speak. Even among her friends, her captain kept urging her, but she pretended not to notice. You want to know, what is the gift of the world's will? Zhou Li withdrew his eyes from the attribute panel and couldn't help but smile when he saw the appearance of the three people. Can you tell me? Wu Qianqian's eyes lit up. Certainly. Zhou Li nodded. There are more than one disaster dungeon, and it is impossible for him to control all the disaster dungeons around the world. Once those disaster dungeons are cleared, the so-called gift of the worlds will no longer be a secret. Anyway, this is your authority and no one else can take it away. It's better to show it openly. Zhou Li did not doubt that there were still people who could clear the disaster dungeon. After all, there were cheaters in other countries, and it would be more than 20 days before the ghost-level disaster would really come. Wu Qianqian and Chen Liar's faces were full of curiosity for knowledge. Zhang Yu was more reserved, but also wanted to know. Zhou Li smiled and stated the two permissions. If I choose to make money every day, then I don't have to fight. I just lie down every day and wait to become stronger. Wu Qianqian had a silly smile on her face, falling into some kind of fantasy. If it were you, nothing would happen. Zhang Yu patted Wu Qianqian's head angrily. It is impossible to open permissions easily. Zhou Li is a single player who clears the dungeon. Only when the contribution is 100% will the permissions be directly unlocked. Chapter 61, Part 2. If it were someone else, the contribution would be shared among everyone, so there wouldn't be that much. Can this information be reported? Zhang Yu asked. Zhou Li naturally had no objection. He glanced at Zhang Yu and Wu Qianqian and suddenly said, "Get ready and follow me to the second-level trial dungeon." Zhang Yu. Wu Qianqian, huh? They thought that Zhou Li, who had received such great benefits, would continue his efforts and clear other disaster dungeons in order to get more gifts from the will of the world and upgrade his authority level. Who knew that when the conversation changed, he would still open a trial dungeon. Although they were a little surprised, neither Zhang Yu nor Wu Qianqian would refuse. Chun Liar was standing aside, extremely envious. She really wanted to join the team and be led away by Master Zhou Li. However, when she thought that they were entering a second-level dungeon, and she was still only a first-level copy, she suddenly fell into isolation. If everything's okay, I'll go back first. Zhou Li glanced at Chun Liar. To be honest, Zhou Li was a little surprised when he came out of the dungeon and found that there were only 3 people waiting outside, 2 of whom were acquaintances. After all, his previous behavior was a bit reckless. He entered the disaster dungeon without even saying hello. It is reasonable for the Extraordinary Administration to hold him accountable for this. Unexpectedly, the Extraordinary Administration had no intention of doing so. As expected of an official, this structure and magnanimity are beyond the reach of ordinary people. Zhou Li sighed inwardly, and his impression of the Extraordinary Administration was getting better and better. No, it's okay. Seeing Zhou Li's gaze, Chun Liar quickly moved her arms, extremely nervous. Seeing that Zhang Yu and Wu Qianqian did not retort, Zhou Li launched the Thunder Shadow Step, and the next moment, his body disappeared from the place, and the 3 women did not even see his figure clearly. Xinhai City. Zhou Li returned to his residence and couldn't wait to open the properties panel. Although he hadn't had time to check it yet, his personal experience in the battle made him understand that his strength had increased a lot. His eyes fell accurately on the skill bar. Wild Bloodline LV0+1. Quality: Rare. Type: Passive skills: Bloodline. The bloodline originating from the ancient wilderness awakens in your body, and your physical fitness is greatly improved, with strength plus 11,000, agility plus 5,500, and constitution plus 11,000. Bloodline power is released, strength plus 55%, agility plus 30%, constitution plus 55%. What an amazing change. Zhou Li never expected that this passive skill would undergo such an astonishing change, from a simple attribute-adding passive skill to a bloodline ability. At the same level as 0, not only the attribute value increased dozens of times, but also the bloodline was liberated. No wonder the subsequent upgrades are so difficult. No wonder there was so much movement during the breakthrough. Chapter 62, Part 1. The Wild Bloodline was worthy of Zhou Li's waiting. After transforming into a bloodline ability, its power is almost comparable to that of martial arts. In comparison, Savage Bloodline provides more attribute values. Although it does not have spiritual attributes, the other 3 attributes are all far superior to the 100 Battles martial arts code. Both have similar explosive abilities. The explosive state of the 100 Battles martial arts is more comprehensive, and even the mental value has not dropped. The liberation of the blood of the Savage Bloodline has the largest increase in strength and physique. These 2 can be compared with the 100 Wars martial arts. The agility is much worse, and the spirit is much higher. Not at all. Moreover, the 100 Battles martial arts code has an additional combat buff. Overall, the skills are still better, but Zhou Li is not disappointed at all. After all, Savage Bloodline is just a skill. They don't conflict either. In the explosive state, bloodline liberation can still be carried out and double bonuses can be obtained. Zhou Li was a little excited. How powerful he must be in that state. If he hadn't entered the trial dungeon next, Zhou Li would have really wanted to find another disaster dungeon and kill them all. With his current strength, the second-level disaster copy, which is about the same strength as Longyu City, is far from enough to consume him to the point where he is exhausted. Half an hour later, the time agreed upon with Zhang Yu and the others came. Zhou Li first looked at his attribute panel as usual. Name: Zhou Li. Level: Second level. Talent: Born Divine. EX. Power: 25005 plus 1500. Agility: 19502 plus 1170. Physique: 25756 plus 1545. Spirit: 13253 plus 795. Skills: Melee Specialization LV9 plus 1. Thunder Shadow Step LV9 plus 1. Rank Suppression: Savage Bloodline LV0 plus 1. War Trample LV7 plus 1. Mountain and River Collapse LV8 plus 1. Vitality Field: Kung Fu. 100 Battles Martial Arts Code plus 1. Deshang. Bloodline: Savage Bloodline. Title: Pioneer, Pioneer, Fearless, Permission, Excellence LV1. After seeing all his attributes, even Zhou Li himself took a breath of cold air. Strong, too strong. The 4 major attributes all exceeded 10,000, entering the 3rd level category. The highest strength and physique were close to 30,000. I don't know how much stronger I am than when I was first promoted. At this stage where the first echelon has only a few thousand attributes, and most people only have a few dozen attributes, there are actually people who are 10 times, 1,000 times more powerful than them. If cheaters such as Nobuo Miyamoto were to know Zhou Li's attribute values at this time, they would probably be completely desperate. Even if they cheat, they can't catch up. Not only the attribute values, but also the skills are not much better. After being promoted to the 2nd level, the speed at which talents become stronger increases. Although the improvement in skill experience is not as much as the attribute value, it also speeds up the skill upgrade again. It won't take long for Melee Specialization and Thunder Shadow Step to be fully upgraded. Within a day or two, War Trampling and Mountain River Collapse can also reach full level. By then, Zhou Li will have perfect level skills. What surprised Zhou Li was that there was an extra bloodline on the attribute panel. The name is exactly the same as the skill name. Wild Bloodline, Quality, Rare. A powerful bloodline originating from the ancient wilderness. Note, a powerful bloodline requires a high enough life level to carry it. The power of bloodline can exceed the life level by at most 1 level. There is no detailed numerical introduction, but there is an additional note. The power of blood is at most 1 level higher than the level of life. Zhou Li fell into deep thought. Life level should refer to the level. He is currently at the 2nd level. In other words, is the power of blood that he can carry only the highest level of the 3rd level? The power of bloodline should refer to the increased fixed attributes. Zhou Li understood. There are 2 effects of Savage Bloodline. One is to increase fixed attributes, and the other is to liberate bloodline. The latter is a percentage bonus, which is not a problem, but the former is different. The attributes added by the rare level Wild Bloodline are tens of thousands. It is conceivable that the attributes added by the perfect level, legendary level, and even the myth level will be exaggerated. Millions, tens of millions, or hundreds of millions. There is no limit to the learning of skills. At least so far, Zhou Li has not found any skills with learning restrictions. In other words, if a 0-level awakened person can obtain mythical bloodline skills, his attributes will exceed 100 million, or even stronger. This is too outrageous. Obviously, this is impossible. Chapter 62, Part 2. Fixed attributes represent the power of bloodline. The power of bloodline with over 100 million attributes is so majestic and vast that it cannot be carried by a 0-level awakened person. Even the mythical bloodline skills can only show the strength of the 1st level in the 0-level awakened person. The more powerful bloodline power cannot be carried by his life level. However, this problem does not exist with the Savage Bloodline. Zhou Li is now at the 2nd level, which can carry up to the 3rd level of bloodline power. The Wild Bloodline is a rare level skill, and its upper limit is the 3rd level. Also adding fixed attributes, Zhou Li couldn't help but think of his own technique. The 100 Battles Martial Arts Code of Advanced Kung Fu is also aimed at the rare level. But Zhou Li didn't notice that it showed any signs of transforming into bloodline power, which showed that even with fixed attributes, the situation was different. The attributes of Baijian Wudianjia are derived from persistent practice. It is a long and gradual process. In this process, the body gradually adapts. Since the attribute value added by the 100 Battles Martial Code is very small, which is far inferior to that of the Savage Bloodline, Zhou Li does not know whether it will also have problems with being unable to bear it. Perhaps in the future, you can refer to some more martial arts knowledge and concepts about body training to increase the attribute values of the exercises. At that time, like blood, what special physique will appear? Many thoughts flashed through Zhou Li's mind. The practice is very inclusive and malleable. These are good development directions worth looking forward to. Shaking his head, Zhou Li retracted his thoughts that had wandered away. The focus now is still on the next book. It's a pity that the skill of Savage Bloodline is not available. Zhou Li was a little regretful, but he didn't think much about it. It is still in the skill bar, so the title of Pioneer can still be effective. If you really go to the Bloodline, there will be no bonus of level +1, and the gain outweighs the loss. The next one. Zhou Li opened the copy list. The total number of 2nd-level trial dungeons is 41, twice that of the 1st level. The extra one is naturally the Thunder Valley that was just transformed by Zhou Li. Zhou Li randomly selected a copy. After the 100 battle techniques break through into the 100 Battles Martial Arts Code, no matter who the opponent is, they can gain experience through fighting, including the martial arts knowledge and concepts required to break through the upper limit of the martial arts. It is equivalent to learning by analogy, comprehending oneself in battle, and gaining growth. There is no longer a requirement to fight with martial arts practitioners. This is undoubtedly a good thing. Dungeon rewards are related to the type of dungeon. If Zhou Li keeps grinding dungeons with a martial arts background, the drop rewards will be limited, which is not a good thing for his growth. There is no new difficulty for the second-level dungeon, and the highest level is still difficult. 5 hours later, the world announcement that Zhou Li's team had cleared the second-level difficulty dungeon rang in everyone's ears. This is just the beginning. In one day, similar world announcements sounded 5 times in total, which immediately shocked the Blue Star people. Nobuo Miyamoto and others were envious, jealous, and resentful, but they were helpless. They entered the dungeon cooldown and could not advance to the second level. They could only watch helplessly as Zhou Li's team easily passed the difficult dungeon for the first time. Just when everyone thought that Zhou Li's team would continue their efforts and even clear the second-level upgrade dungeon, creating another miracle, the world announcement they were looking forward to did not come out for a long time. Chapter 63, Part 1. Congratulations on passing the trial copy. Bone Burial Ground, difficulty. Your evaluation is SSS and you will receive the following rewards. Growth value 20, Strength Crystal * 1650, Agility Crystal * 1650, Constitution Crystal * 1650, Spirit Crystal * 1650, Sophisticated Level Props Netherworld Stone. Since this is the first pass, your contribution is unparalleled. Additional rewards include Strength Crystal * 1430, Agility Crystal * 1430, Physique Crystal * 1430, Spirit Crystal * 1430, Excellent Grade Material, Bone Cold Fire, Rare Grade Equipment, Soul, Bone Ring. On a hill made of countless dead bones, Zhou Li and others stood quietly, listening to the system prompts after clearing the level. There's nothing good to say about clearing the second-level dungeon. With Zhou Li's current strength, he can crush it all the way. If we didn't leave time for Jiang Yu and others to increase their contributions, it would only be faster. This reward is less than expected. Zhou Li glanced at the dungeon reward and shook his head slightly. According to past rules, the reward for the second-level copy should be 10 times that of the first-level copy. The first-level difficulty dungeon had a growth value of 30, and the attribute crystals each had 300. Then, when the second-level difficulty dungeon only gave 20 growth values, the attribute crystals should have been 2,000. However, what Zhou Li actually got was only 1,650. This 1650 is still due to the authority of excellence. The increase in the drop rate also affected the number of attribute crystals. By comparing the rewards with Jiang Yu and others, Zhou Li came to the conclusion that LV1's excellence increased the number of attribute crystals by 10%. In other words, under normal circumstances, the amount given is 1,500. The number of attribute crystals given by clearing the dungeon has decreased. This means that it becomes more difficult for awakened people to improve themselves. Perhaps, first-level awakeners do not play difficult dungeons, but only play normal difficulty, and there is still a certain probability of clearing the first-level upgraded dungeon. But when it comes to second level, if this is still the case, the probability will be even lower, and more people will be stuck in the second level. Further up, maybe if they don't play difficult dungeons, the dungeon rewards they get will be far from enough to support them in leveling up, and they will be completely stuck. You can only look for ways outside of the dungeon to improve yourself, such as universal rewards, techniques such as body strengthening techniques, Wuhan root seedlings, etc. I hope there will be higher difficulty in the future. Zhou Li looked forward to it. For him, the difficulty level is no longer enough, and the rewards are not good enough. If it continues like this, it will become useless. If other people knew what Zhou Li was thinking, they would definitely say something harshly, right? After clearing the level once, Zhou Li was only given 20 growth points, which was not surprising. This has been the trend since level 0. At low levels, the growth value can be filled up very quickly. The higher the level, the more times it takes. This mechanism is undoubtedly painful for people who lack strength and have difficulty clearing the dungeon. Zhou Li didn't care, and even welcomed him. The growth value is less, but the rewards for dropped items are not less. Being able to swipe more times means more reward items. It's essentially a benefit. Unfortunately, the second level is still a bit low. In the first difficult pass of the Boneyard dungeon, only one of the 3 dropped item rewards is rare. This is not because the rewards have become worse, but because the drop rate of the rare level is so low. The second level dungeon has just put the rare level into the drop list. Only when the third level is reached, the drop rate will be lower. There will be a big improvement, plus the first pass and difficulty bonus, ensuring that all item rewards are rare. Although Zhou Li has the authority to strive for excellence, the effect of improving to level 1 is obviously not so immediate. Continue. The world announcement sounded again and again. Both Zhou Li and Jiang Yu were very relaxed. There is no competition and no pressure. It takes an average of 5 hours to complete 5 difficult dungeons in one day. The whole process is easy and enjoyable. The last difficult copy, cleared. The 5 of them were in no rush to quit. Are you going to advance to the upgraded dungeon? I'm really looking forward to it. What's the scenery like at the third level? Wu Qianqian's face was full of excitement. Level 3. He Yuqing only felt a trance. These 2 words, no matter how you look at them, have nothing to do with her as an E-level talent awakener, but at this moment, they seem to be at her fingertips. She sighed again at the magic of fate. Chapter 63, Part 2. If she hadn't firmly joined the group at the beginning, if she hadn't persevered in the biting cold wind, how could she have gotten to where she is today? Not to mention the two little girls Wu Qianqian and He Yuqing. A calm man like Shi Tongyin couldn't help but be excited at this time. You know, there is no second-level player in Blue Star except them. But they are already heading towards the third level. Once successful, the second level will be discontinued. It's just off the mark. Looking at the excited Wu Qianqian and others, Zhang Yu sighed secretly. Among the four, she had the most complicated mood. Because she knew that starting from the third level, the dungeon would no longer require a 5-person team. At that time, it might be the end of this team, because their strength cannot keep up with Zhou Li's pace. Zhou Li, who walks alone, will only be stronger. I hope this short experience will turn into a little bond. There's no need to rush into the advanced copy. Zhou Li said something and expressed his thoughts. In this regard, Wu Qianqian and the others are not disappointed. It would be better if they go a little slower. They can be more prepared and maybe they can get a higher evaluation. Exit the copy. After returning home, Zhou Li clicked on the upgrade copy with some anticipation. The number of second-level upgraded copies becomes 4. Feel free to choose one of them. You have chosen the upgrade copy. Rise of the Orcs, 3. Your team meets the conditions. Do you want to enter? Warning: death or exiting in the upgrade copy will be considered a failure. Warning: after failing to break through the level, you are not allowed to enter again within 10 days. Warning: due to the excellent performance of your team, the difficulty of the upgraded copy has been changed to high difficulty and will return to normal after 15 days. Sure enough, the difficulty is limited. Seeing these prompts, Zhou Li couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. There are still 15 days left, so there is plenty of time. Zhou Li just took a look at the changes in the upgraded dungeon and had no intention of entering immediately. After all, no one wanted to compete with him for the first pass this time. Instead of entering in a hurry, it is better to clear a few more disaster dungeons, increase the authority level of excellence, and then enter the upgraded dungeon, which is the way to maximize the benefits. Just when Zhou Li was about to close the copy list, suddenly, a new system prompt appeared. It is detected that your talent is EX level. You get a chance to sublimate your talent. Once you complete the test, your talent effect will be qualitatively improved, and new talent effects will be added. Warning: once you fail, you will lose this opportunity. You will not be able to get the next opportunity to upgrade your talent until you reach the 5th level to the 6th level. Warning: if you choose to accept the test, the difficulty of the copy will be changed to extremely difficult. The difficulty of your main mission will also be greatly increased. If you cannot complete the task within 15 days, the test will fail. Do you accept the test? Talent sublimation? Zhou Li's eyes froze. These 4 words are very unfamiliar, but the benefits they bring are clear. The qualitative improvement of talent effects, as well as new talent effects. Get it, you must win it. Zhou Li's eyes were red. The next talent sublimation was at 5 to 6. He couldn't wait that long. This sublimation opportunity must be successful. Chapter 64, Part 1. Calm. Slowly exhaling a long breath, Zhou Li forced himself to calm down. The opportunity to improve your talent is too good to miss. But the difficulty is there too. Extremely difficult should be a level of difficulty above high difficulty. The high difficulty level has blocked all the top teams in Blue Star, let alone the extremely difficult one. He has the talent to ensure his own immortality, but the safety of Zhang Yu and others cannot be guaranteed. Moreover, talent does not guarantee that he will be able to pass the level. Because of his main mission, the difficulty will also be greatly increased. This feeling is equivalent to the main mission of the first level upgrade copy, changing from killing any 3 first-class masters to killing Ding Qianjue and Shang Guanyun. That's all. After all, you can wear the opponent to death with your talent. However, given the huge difficulty of the main mission, the time limit was limited to 15 days. You only have one chance. Right now, I'm not fully prepared. Zhou Li wanted to close the copy list, but found that it couldn't be closed. So you want me to make a decision now? You won't let me enter the book right away, right? Zhou Li was speechless. There is nothing to hesitate about. Be tested. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Li noticed that a layer of rich bloodlight enveloped the 4 upgraded copies, giving people a strong sense of uneasiness. Because the difficulty of the dungeon is too high, you can choose to enter alone or in a team. You can actually enter alone. Zhou Li's eyes lit up. If you enter alone, you don't have to worry about the safety of Zhang Yu and others. After making his choice, Zhou Li found that he could turn off the dungeon list, and he was not allowed to enter the dungeon immediately. Do you want to take Zhang Yu and the others with you? Zhou Li hesitated and decided to leave the choice to themselves. He opened his friend list and sent Zhang Yu a message. In the upgraded dungeon from level 2 to level 3, my talent has a chance to sublime. So the difficulty of the dungeon will become extremely difficult and extremely dangerous. You should carefully consider whether you want to enter the dungeon with me. Zhou Li could have concealed the reason why the difficulty of the dungeon became extremely difficult. But after thinking about it, he felt it was not necessary. Talent sublimation is obviously not his unique opportunity. Other awakened people will also encounter it later. Zhou Li has a very good impression of the extraordinary administration and has a high opinion of it. His cooperation with Jiang Yu and the others has always been very good, so he doesn't mind revealing some information in advance. There is another important reason. With the growth of strength, at this moment, Zhou Li is no longer afraid of Blue Star's high-tech weapons, and his mentality has also changed accordingly. He has lost a lot of worries and has become more calm. Is this the so-called magnanimity of a strong man? Jiang Yu is resting in a nearby hotel. Zhou Li didn't feel much about connecting 5 second-level difficulty dungeons in one day, but it was still a bit stressful for them. No matter how relaxed their mentality was, it couldn't cover up the physical fatigue caused by high-intensity fighting. When they were in the dungeon, there were continuous I haven't felt much about the excitement of completing the level. This time I just started to show off and didn't want to do anything else. Fortunately, Zhou Li didn't enter the upgrade dungeon immediately, otherwise she would have really had to apply for a few bottles of recovery potions. After receiving the news from Zhou Li, Jiang Yu had several questions on her mind. Others would probably be confused and not know what talent sublimation means. Jiang Yu, she really knows. After all, when he met Lin Ming, the latter said that after sublimation of his talent, a fourth talent effect appeared. Time travel. If I remember correctly, Lin Ming was talking about the 6th level at that time. What about Zhou Li? Will he be upgraded from level 2 to level 3? Jiang Yu. After replying to Zhou Li that he would consider it carefully and inform Wu Qianqian and the others, Jiang Yu quickly found Lin Ming's friends and sent a message asking, "Can you explain in detail the talent sublimation?" Lin Ming quickly replied, "Talent sublimation? In fact, you don't need to care about this, because for most people, understanding talent sublimation is meaningless." Why? Jiang Yu asked. Because the requirements for talent sublimation are very high. Not only are the test tasks extremely difficult, but the triggering conditions are even higher. Seeing that Jiang Yu really wanted to understand, Lin Ming did not hide anything. In the past life, people who successfully completed talent sublimation were not more than 10. Chapter 64, Part 2. And without exception, they are all SSS level talent awakeners. Jiang Yu, only those with SSS level talent awakenings have a chance to succeed? That's not the case, but only SSS level talent awakeners can trigger the opportunity for talent sublimation at 5 to 6 levels. Lin Ming explained. The opportunity to trigger talent sublimation does not depend on anything else, only the talent level. SS level 1 talent awakeners will most likely have to wait until level 8 to reach level 9 before triggering this opportunity. Level S is the 12th level. As for those below S level, sorry, there is no possibility of talent sublimation at all. Level 12? Jiang Yu was shocked. She didn't expect that there was such a high level. This is a theoretical inference. In fact, no one knows whether there is a 12th level. Lin Ming smiled bitterly. After all, he was only an 8th level in his previous life. Except for those with SS level talent who can rise from 5 to 6, except for the opportunity to trigger talent sublimation, which is certain, the rest are speculations made by a rebel wise man according to the rules. Unfortunately, there was no SS level talent awakener in the previous life who was promoted to the 8th level, so this theory could not be verified. Jiang Yu was silent, still a little worried. She didn't expect that the triggering conditions for talent sublimation were so outrageous. Just look at the talent level. SSS level talent awakeners have to wait until they are 5 to 6 to have a chance. As for Zhou Li, he can get it after 2 to 3. What this means is self-evident. It's Zhou Li. A moment later, Lin Ming sent a message. In Xinhai City, in an elegant community, Lin Ming showed a wry smile. Actually, in the previous life, we had already guessed that Zhou Li's talent should be above the SSS level. As an SSS level talent awakener, Lin Ming has his own pride and never thinks that he is inferior to other SSS level talent awakeners. However, Zhou Li is an exception. He and other SSS level talent awakeners, including Lin Ming, are not in the same dimension at all. The birth of a peerless strong man often involves various factors, such as obtaining a divine weapon, receiving an extremely powerful inheritance, etc. But there is no doubt that talent is definitely the most important of these factors. Therefore, Lin Ming and others had long suspected that Zhou Li's true talent level was only verified at this time. What level will it be above SSS level? Jiang Yu was excited. Of course, she also knew that unless Zhou Li said it himself, no one would know the answer. After getting enough information about talent sublimation from Lin Ming, Jiang Yu made a decision. Go. Why are you not going? This is a talent sublimation that I will most likely never be able to touch. Teaming up with Zhou Li will give me a sense of participation, right? What are you afraid of if you die once? After making the decision, Jiang Yu suddenly felt relaxed, and she asked Wu Qianqian and the others again. Although Wu Qianqian and others didn't know that much, they were full of confidence in Zhou Li and agreed without hesitation. As for the possibility of death, according to Wu Qianqian's words, if you don't die the last time, how can your next dungeon be considered complete? Chapter 65, Part 1. Have you all chosen to write the book together? Zhou Li was not surprised when he received the reply from Jiang Yu and others. Although this upgrade copy must be extremely dangerous, he is still willing to help Jiang Yu and others to give Xiaoguo a few more third-level copies if he can. Zhou Li began to plan his next preparations. To be on the safe side, he planned to enter the dungeon in 10 days. 5 days should be enough to clear the customs. In these 10 days, he must be fully prepared to be in the best condition to deal with this extremely precious opportunity to sublimate his talent. The first is the choice of upgrade copy. Different dungeons have different strategy ideas, which can determine the direction of subsequent efforts. The 4 upgrade dungeons are Rise of the Orcs, 3, Burning Red Cliff, Under the Abyss, and Mysterious Desert Island. The Rise of the Orcs, 3, dungeon was eliminated first. After all, when Zhou Li was at the first level, he did not choose the Rise of the Orcs, 2. As a series of dungeons, missing one of the links will inevitably have an impact on the subsequent series. This copy is undoubtedly the worst option. Then there is the copy of Under the Abyss. If you don't enter the dungeon, you won't get detailed information, but you can still get some clues, such as the type of the dungeon. When Zhou Li clicked on the copy of Under the Abyss, he could feel a coldness sweeping over it, as well as vague and indistinct murmurs. At first glance, you can tell that it is a copy of the mysterious side, and it may be related to the evil god. Of course, it is only a second-level copy. Even if it is extremely difficult, it will not lead to the evil god, but the evil god's followers are not difficult to deal with. The most important thing is that this type of dungeon has high mental requirements, and Zhou Li's mental value is the lowest among the 4 major attributes. Using one's own shortcomings to attack the other's strong points is not something a wise man would do. Therefore, this copy is also excluded. That leaves the Mysterious Desert Island and Burning Red Cliff. Zhou Li was very familiar with the story of the Burning Red Cliff. Of course, since it became a dungeon, it must have undergone extensive magical changes. Otherwise, ordinary ancient soldiers would not have the second-level strength. Compared with Burning Red Cliff, the Mysterious Desert Island revealed too little information. Zhou Li had no way of predicting what he would encounter after entering the book and what kind of tasks he would receive, which was not conducive to preparation in advance. After some thought, Zhou Li finally decided on the Burning Red Cliff dungeon as his upgrade dungeon. Get the copy, and then the skills. Zhou Li still has 2 free skill slots. With his talent, the sooner he learns skills, the better. With his current speed of getting stronger, 10 days have passed. Even if his skills are only ordinary level at first, he should be promoted to perfect level. However, he doesn't have any satisfactory skills, and his skill slots are limited, so he definitely can't learn them casually and must choose based on actual needs. The dungeon of Burning Red Cliff, no matter how much magic is changed, cannot completely break away from history. Therefore, there is a high probability that there will be battles on rivers. Zhou Li thought, that's all on land. He can't show off his skills in water or sea battles. Underwater breathing? Or is it a skill to maintain combat power in the water? Or is it the ability to control water? Zhou Li thought for a while and eliminated them all. The scope of application of these skills is relatively small, and they are not as versatile as the skills you have already learned. Unless you give priority to dungeons in the water area in the future, they will not be given priority. Zhou Li prefers flying ability. Flying is a human dream, and Zhou Li is no exception. With his current attributes, he can easily jump hundreds of meters high, but that is not flying. In the disaster dungeon of Thunder Valley, Zhou Li discovered one of his shortcomings, which was his lack of methods to deal with flying units. If it weren't for those second-level Thunder Eagles, who thought Zhou Li was out of gas and carelessly failed to maintain a safe enough height, Zhou Li would have been unable to defeat them, and would not have been able to clear the level alone. The flying ability is definitely worth it. It has a wide range of applications and can be used in most copies. After deciding on one skill in the last skill slot, Zhou Li decided to choose the long-range attack skill to increase his attack methods while flying. Shooting skills are good, so that Zhou Li can also bring some high-tech weapons into the dungeon. Chapter 65, Part 2. Of course, what Zhou Li is looking forward to is the legendary long-range attack skills such as sword control, which are both stylish and practical, and do not need to rely on guns and ammunition. Unfortunately, the latter style of painting does not match National Awakening, and is purely Zhou Li's imagination. Shaking his head, Zhou Li opened the trading center of the Extraordinary Forum, ready to see if there were any skills that met his requirements. If he didn't find them, he would check through the official treasure trove. Whether it was flying skills or advanced long-range attack skills, Zhou Li didn't expect to be able to obtain them directly. Not realistic. Their quality is most likely to be rare level or above. Only a few of them have skills of this quality, and others have no way to obtain them. Not to mention rare level skills. The probability of sophisticated level skills appearing in the trading center is extremely low. Occasionally, it would appear, but it would either be sold immediately, or it would be priced at a sky-high price, with no sincerity in selling at all. Zhou Li didn't expect to miss anything. Anyway, he had the talent, and his quality didn't matter at all, as long as there was a possibility of a breakthrough in his skills. After some screening, Zhou Li took a fancy to a skill. Light quality, ordinary, type. Active skills. After use, your body becomes light and flexible and can stay in the air for a short time. This skill hangs there and no one cares about it. Without combat power, it is just a flexible body that can stay in the air for a short period of time, which is not very attractive to awakened people. Of course, if it can be bought with money, then someone will definitely be willing to bid, and it is the most valuable skill after all. However, what the seller requires is barter, and he does not care about real currency at all. As time goes by, the purchasing power of real currency further decreases, and the awakened people are more willing to barter, or use attribute crystals as currency. What Zhou Li is interested in is the ability to stay in the air of the lightness skill. It is only an ordinary level now, so it is naturally inconspicuous. But when it breaks through to a sophisticated level or a rare level, it may be able to evolve the ability to fly. Even if it makes a deep breakthrough, it will appear its flying ability is not satisfactory. Zhou Li can also choose to make a breakthrough in breadth and develop its flying ability. I sent a message to the seller. The seller did not download the copy and quickly saw the message. When he saw that the person who sent him the message was Zhou Li, he thought he was mistaken or it was a high imitation account. When it was confirmed that it was correct, he was extremely excited. This was great god Zhou Li, a legendary figure. He never thought that he would have the opportunity to interact with him. Zhou Li was a little unaccustomed to the other party's enthusiasm, so he went straight to the point and stated his purpose. Knowing that Zhou Li wanted to buy the skill of lightness, the seller didn't suspect anything. He didn't think that Zhou Li was buying it for his own use. He just thought that he wanted to give it to others. He immediately made a decision and decided to give it to Zhou Li as a thank you for Zhou Li's gift. Favor. This seller is from the Xia Kingdom, a first-level awakener. In the 2 universal rewards, he obtained 210 full attributes and greatly improved his strength. He is extremely grateful to Zhou Li. Zhou Li naturally didn't want to take advantage of this. After some negotiation, he exchanged an ordinary level skill that he couldn't use for this skill. Chapter 66, Part 1. The trading center is run by Blue Star countries and does not have the ability to trade remotely. However, there is a trading function on the attribute panel. As long as you have friends with the other party, you can trade over the air even if you are far away. After finishing this transaction, Zhou Li had a headache. He also realized personally that his status in the hearts of the awakened people of Xia Kingdom, at least the vast majority of people in Xia Kingdom, were grateful to him. A little reserved in real life, but too enthusiastic online. It's not Zhou Li's style to get benefits for free. It would also be unpleasant if he met foreign awakened people and was offered high prices. After deciding to make the purchase, he entrusted it to Jiang Yu or He Yuqing. Zhou Li took out the lightness skill and chose to learn it. Countless memories of practicing skills flooded into his mind, and Zhou Li quickly adapted. Light. After using the skill, Zhou Li found that his body had indeed become lighter and more flexible. With a slight jump, his body stayed in the air for about 3 seconds before starting to fall. The ordinary level skills were nothing outstanding. After trying them for a while, Zhou Li stopped paying attention and quietly waited for the talent to improve its level. Compared to the average airborne skill, long-range attack skills were undoubtedly much more popular. In addition, there were very few skills for sale in the trading center. Zhou Li looked around but couldn't find a suitable skill. So Zhou Li contacted Jiang Yu again and explained his needs. I thought you were ready to withdraw the official reward, Jiang Yu said with a smile. That's not urgent. You can wait. Zhou Li also didn't forget that he could cash in on the officially promised rewards at any time. It is worth mentioning that after they cleared the Forbidden Summit dungeon and once again brought more generous national rewards to the Xia Kingdom, the officially promised rewards also increased. Although there were no higher-level epic items, the quantity is doubled. Of course, for now, it's still a blank check. Zhou Li planned to wait 10 days before entering the second-level upgrade dungeon before considering whether to cash in on this reward. It mainly depends on the official treasure trove. After a while, Jiang Yu sent a list, which not only included the long-range attack skills Zhou Li needed, but also other types of skills. Zhou Li doubted whether she had sent all her skills. Thank you. Zhou Li looked at it carefully. When they first met, Jiang Yu said that the official treasure house was open to Zhou Li, and he could buy or sell it with a certain discount. Zhou Li had no demand for it before, so he had never seen it. This was the first time he saw the official treasure house. Of inventory. It has to be said that it is worthy of being an extraordinary management bureau with an official background, and the richness of its internal resources is far beyond what those in the trading center can compare to. There are hundreds of ordinary level skills, and there are also more than a dozen excellent level skills that cannot be seen at the trading center. Zhou Li casually glanced at the dozen or so sophisticated skills and lost interest. There is a reason why they appear in the official treasure house instead of being used, and they are more or less weird, such as this skill. Amplification, quality, excellent, type, passive skill. Your voice becomes extremely loud and can spread further. Zhou Li. Is this the legendary loud voice? The sound is loud and can be transmitted far. It is also useful in certain situations. The biggest drawback of this skill is that it is a passive ability. In other words, after learning this skill, unless you can stop talking in the future, otherwise you will disturb the people when you speak, and the slightest movement can be heard for 10 miles. That picture is so beautiful. Zhou Li expressed his gratitude to Bumin. This piece of shit turned out to be a sophisticated one, which made Zhou Li sigh with emotion at how different the world was. Let's look at ordinary level skills. Zhou Li doesn't mind the low quality of skills. In his eyes, the two are of equal value. There are 7 or 8 long-range attack skills. After some consideration and selection, Zhou Li finally settled on one skill. Introduction to Archery, Quality, Ordinary, Type, Passive Skill. You have mastered certain archery skills, and your archery power will be plus 5%. A passive skill of the same type as Sword Mastery, but with archery power added, only 5%, and even at full level it is only 10%. After all, it is an ordinary level skill, and its numerical value is not much better. Zhou Li didn't care either. What he valued was its future. Chapter 66, Part 2. Swordsmanship proficiency can continuously break through to melee specialization, and archery proficiency can also break through to long-range specialization. One for melee and one for long-range. Zhou Li will be able to exert powerful power no matter what weapon he is holding or whether he is holding a weapon. As for the breakthrough of melee specialization, can we also include the long-range aspect? Zhou Li thought it was unlikely. As he said before, skills are like a big tree shrouded in black mist, with lush branches and many branches. So melee combat and long-range combat are probably two different trees. After confirming, Zhou Li made a deal with Jiang Yu. He had a lot of things in the warehouse. Don't be too relaxed when buying a normal level skill. Countless memories of shooting bows and arrows flooded into his mind. Zhou Li was slightly stunned and mastered this skill in the blink of an eye. As a result, his skill slots were full again. After getting the skills, Zhou Li didn't stop and kept coming. He was going to see what good things there were in the official treasure house besides skills, and to clear out the inventory. There are not many ordinary level items accumulated in his backpack, but there are quite a few fine level items. There are also some rare level items, which are rewards from the second level difficulty dungeon and the first level upgraded dungeon, as well as the lottery proceeds. I didn't count them much before. It was handled just right this time. Property increasing props were used directly, such as Xiao Huandan, which gave him hundreds of additional properties. Those that can be used will be kept for now, and those that are not needed, Zhou Li is ready to trade them out. Micro-spiritual veins. It's not that Zhou Li forgot about this rare level special item. The main thing was that things happened one after another. It didn't improve his strength that much, so he put it aside for now. If it weren't for this transaction, I don't know what he would have done. How long to lie in the backpack? Got to find a place to put it down. Of course you have to use this thing yourself. The aura environment may not be of much use to you, but it is certainly picturesque and has a beautiful environment, making it very comfortable to live in such a place. While sending the items he was planning to sell to Jiang Yu, Zhou Li considered where to place the miniature spiritual veins. The community where he lives now? Zhou Li directly ruled out that the vegetation rate in the community is not high, and it would be a waste to put the miniature spiritual veins here. At most, it would be beneficial to the people living here. No need. It's better to live somewhere else. He doesn't have the feeling of leaving his hometown. Just when Zhou Li took out the map and looked for a suitable place, Jiang Yu looked at the item introductions sent by Zhou Li and suddenly took a breath. Rare grade, rare grade, rare grade. Most of them are excellent grade, and there are even 3 rare grade ones. And none of them are as weird as amplification. If they can win them all, the strength of the extraordinary administration will be greatly improved. Chapter 67, Part 1. Rare level. Although Jiang Yu and the others are also the only second-level awakeners in Blue Star, they have also played 5 second-level difficult dungeons and have maxed out their growth points. But the dungeon rewards will ultimately be affected by the dungeon evaluation, and their income is far from comparable to Zhou Li's. There are only 2 rare items in the hands of the 4 people in total, and one of them was drawn by lottery. It's not even enough for internal digestion, let alone putting it into the official treasury for sale. Director Liao. Jiang Yu quickly introduced these items and forwarded them to Liao Xiefeng. If she wanted to get these items, her authority would definitely not be enough. Even Liao Xiefeng couldn't afford that much budget. All high-quality products have a price, but no market, let alone rare ones. Captain Jiang, these things are? Liao Xiefeng replied immediately. If Jiang Yu hadn't been resting in the hotel and not in the Extraordinary Management Bureau, he might have rushed directly to Jiang Yu's office. Yes, they were all provided by Zhou Li. He wanted to sell these items. The corners of Jiang Yu's mouth curled up slightly, and she could imagine Liao Xiefeng's eager expression. I have finally waited for this day. Liao Xiefeng cried silently. Of the tens of billions of awakened beings on Blue Star, who has the best stuff? How could the Supernormal Management Bureau not know? However, this is the future Great Demon King and must be treated with caution. Ask him to hand it over? That's unthinkable. The biggest dream is just to buy some high-quality items from Zhou Li, even if the price is premium. However, Zhou Li has not revealed this intention for a long time. Liao Xiefeng was impatient and wanted to ask Jiang Yu for a hint, but Jiang Yu decisively refused. Now the opportunity has finally come. Don't be too happy yet. Can we take these things, and what price will we have to pay? Jiang Yu replied quietly. Hearing this, Liao Xiefeng was shocked. He quickly checked the 3 rare items. He was just too excited to look at them and didn't take a closer look. There were 3 rare items. One was equipment and the other was a prop. Their value was indeed high, but they were still affordable. However, the 3rd item made Liao Xiefeng's whole body shake. Rare grade, special item? If anyone was present, they would have seen the director's voice rising an octave in an instant. This is a special item. None of the special items currently appearing are simple, and their value is so high that it even exceeds skills. And this is Danfeng. Once you learn this Baijiao powder recipe, as long as you have enough materials, you can continuously produce Baijiao powder. Special items are special in that they are not disposable items. Some props can also allow people to master the elixir recipe. Just like learning skills, they can be learned instantly, but they have a number of uses, and only a few people can learn the elixir recipe. The Baijiao Sandan recipe is different. It cannot allow users to learn the recipe instantly. They need to study it by themselves and master it after a certain period of time. However, it can be used by many people and can be passed down as long as it is not damaged. The value is too great. This? Liao Xiefeng finally understood why Jiang Yu replied like that. He now also doubts whether the extraordinary administration can come up with trading items that satisfy Zhou Li. After spreading the news, the senior management was also very worried. They finally decided to let Zhou Li make his own demands, and they would try their best to satisfy them. Do I make a request? After receiving the message from Jiang Yu, Zhou Li's expression changed slightly. He was planning to sell these things. If the extraordinary administration can eat them, he will sell them to them. If he can't eat them, he will give them to them to sell them on his behalf. Now it seems that he is ready to eat it, especially those 3 rare items. Zhou Li didn't care. Although the Baijiao powder pill formula was a rare special item, it was no more than a pearl covered in dust in his hands. Only in the hands of a powerful force like the extraordinary administration could its maximum value be exerted. First of all, I don't collect trash. Zhou Li made his attitude clear. He was definitely not willing to exchange a large number of ordinary and fine-grade items for the 3 rare-grade items. Secondly, I need a piece of land. With that said, Zhou Li also sent the attributes of the miniature spiritual veins to Jiang Yu. After all, it is a spiritual vein with a wide range of influence. After Zhou Li releases it, it will gradually change the environment of the surrounding area. It cannot be hidden from others, and there is no need to hide it. Jiang Yu was stunned when she saw the properties of the miniature spiritual veins. Chapter 67, Part 2. Another rare special item. Finally, you guys estimate the price. Everything else can be considered as a contribution. You won't allow it, right? Zhou Li said jokingly. Within the Extraordinary Management Bureau, a contribution point system is implemented. If you hand over items that you cannot use, the value of the items will be determined and a sum of contribution points will be given to you, which can be consumed internally. Whether it is purchasing items, asking people to help, asking people for advice, or even real resources, etc., you can use contribution points. How come? We couldn't ask for it. Jiang Yu replied with a smile, feeling relieved in her heart. Zhou Li is not a member of the Extraordinary Management Bureau, so she should not enjoy the internal benefits, but she believes that the higher-ups will definitely allow such a special case to exist. After negotiation, the Extraordinary Administration's quotation for Baijiao Sandanfeng was 10 million contribution points, and the other 2 rare items were 1 million each. The other zeros and zeros were added up for a total of 700,000 contribution points. Regardless of the small amount given, in fact, the purchasing power of contribution points is very strong, far beyond what Xia Yuan can compare to. Normally, a normal sophisticated level skill only has 100,000 contribution points. Zhou Li felt that the other party gave him too much. Although special items can be used all the time, this Baijiao powder is obviously not a high-end elixir. Moreover, it is just Zhang Danfeng, not a finished product. If conditions permit, Zhou Li would not mind improving the strength of the Extraordinary Administration. As ghost-level disasters approach, monster attacks occur frequently around the world, and the probability of space cracks appearing greatly increases. Zhou Li didn't want to rush around killing monsters. The Extraordinary Management Bureau has become stronger and can handle all kinds of troubles, so he can live comfortably. As for the land you want, a high-end community is being built in the northern suburbs of Xinhai City at the foot of Blue Sky Mountain. It has beautiful mountains and clear waters and lush vegetation. If you are satisfied, it will be yours, and we will follow your instructions as quickly as possible. Build housing according to the demand. Jiang Yu replied with some anxiety. There shouldn't be too many places in Xia Kingdom suitable for placing micro-spiritual veins. After knowing Zhou Li's purpose, the senior management had a quarrel. Who didn't want to invite Zhou Li, a great god, to settle in his territory? In the end, It was decided to respect Zhou Li's opinion. If the places provided by Xinhai City could not satisfy Zhou Li, then various places would compete with each other. Blue Sky Mountain. Relevant images flashed through Zhou Li's mind quickly, and he nodded. Okay. He is a native of Xinhai. He has lived here for almost 20 years and has long been used to it. He will naturally not choose to leave unless necessary. Chapter 68, Part 1. How many contribution points do I need for this piece of land? After finalizing the location, Zhou Li asked about the price. Leaving aside the price of land, the high-end community under construction alone is probably worth billions or tens of billions of xia yuan. It is an astronomical figure that Zhou Li will not be able to earn in his lifetime before the nation awakens. I thought I would need a lot of contribution points, but unexpectedly, Zhang Yu replied, you don't need any contribution points. The existence of micro-spiritual veins has benefits for the surrounding areas. In fact, it should be us who contribute points to you. It's not necessary if you contribute some points to me. Zhou Li shook his head. There were too many contribution points, which is just a number. Let's do it this way. I like peace and quiet. You can build a lot of construction projects 1 kilometer away, but don't do it too much. Crowded. After the micro-spiritual veins were put in, there were feng shui treasures all around, and Zhou Li didn't mind them taking advantage of them. Thanks in advance. Maybe we can be neighbors in the future, even though we are a little far away. Zhang Yu said with a smile. By the way, if you want to attack the disaster dungeon, I can help. Zhou Li said, but in 10 days, I will prepare the dungeon, so you'd better be mentally prepared. Before writing the book, he will try his best to increase the authority of excellence. Very good. Zhang Yu was overjoyed. She was still having a headache, how to persuade Zhou Li to attack the disaster dungeon, but she didn't expect Zhou Li to take the initiative. After the surprise, her mood became a little heavy. She has not forgotten that the challenge this time is an extremely difficult copy. Judging from previous experience, once this new difficulty level is cleared within the time limit, special rewards will be brought to Blue Star. This is a great thing that benefits everyone. However, the side effect is the early arrival of ghost-level disasters. The current countdown to the ghost-level disaster only has more than 20 days left, which means that if the level is successfully passed, the ghost-level disaster will officially come in 15 days. If you clear customs in advance, this time will be advanced. There is not much time left for Blue Star. The northern suburbs of Xinhai City, Bikong Mountain. Zhou Li appeared at the foot of the mountain and looked around. The ongoing project was stopped and the new construction team had not arrived yet. At this time, Zhou Li was the only one nearby. Looking at the surrounding scenery, Zhou Li nodded with satisfaction and took out the miniature spiritual vein. This is an earthy yellow light ball with countless pale yellow rays of light flowing inside, which is quite mysterious. With a flip of his palm, the ball of light suddenly turned into an earthy yellow light and sank into the ground beneath his feet. Zhou Li stood quietly, carefully experiencing the changes before and after the release. The earth shook slightly, but the amplitude was not large. It was not even noticeable when it was far away. Zhou Li understood that this was because the miniature spiritual veins were combining with the earth and becoming one. After a while, the vibration stopped, and countless spiritual energy invisible to the naked eye escaped from the ground and floated in the air, slowly increasing the concentration of spiritual energy in the air. The surrounding flowers, plants, and trees seemed to have taken a big tonic, becoming more lush and full of life. Zhou Li walked outside and quickly walked around the area. The farther outside, the lower the concentration of spiritual energy. However, because it has just been released, the amount of spiritual energy is not large enough, and it is not yet known how large an area it will eventually affect. At this moment, a system prompt sounded. You have put in the micro-spiritual veins, and the favor of Blue Star World will, in the process of being nurtured, has increased. Improvement in favor? Zhou Li was slightly stunned. Injecting micro-spiritual veins would be beneficial to Blue Star's still developing world will. He could understand it, but what was the operation of increasing his favor? What are the benefits if the favorability increases to a certain level? Shaking his head, Zhou Li didn't think much, moved his body and disappeared from the place. He plans to build a manor here as his future residence. The design drawings have been selected and are waiting for the construction team to build it. After one day, 20 miles outside Yunjing City lies the Luofeng Mountains. A jade portal entwined with strong demonic aura stands on the mountainside. At this time, many people had gathered in front of this copy portal. Brother Luo, Master Luo, Lao Luo. A tall middle-aged man came quickly with more than 20 men. Chapter 68, Part 2. Everyone he met on the road greeted him friendly. Who is this person? He is so impressive. Of course, there are people who don't know him. You are not a local, so it's normal if you don't know him. The person in question explained. His name is Luo Hui, the president of the Yunjing Society. Before the National Awakening, he was the owner of a local martial arts gym, and then he awakened to the SSS super talent, soaring into the sky. Instead of joining our extraordinary management bureau, he established the Yunjing Society, gathered many highly talented awakeners, killed alien monsters, and maintained the stability of Yunjing City in this area. Yunjing's strength is far superior to that of the Extraordinary Administration. SSS-level talent awakener. There was a cry of cold air around him, and Luo Hui's eyes were full of shock. This is the highest level of talent. There are no more than 10 people in the entire Xia Kingdom. Unexpectedly, I met one here. Those present were not surprised that Luo Hui established the Yunjingui to overpower the Extraordinary Administration. Although within Xia's country, the official Extraordinary Administration Bureau is absolutely #1 in terms of strength and numbers, and the branches in some important cities are extremely powerful, enough to suppress any dissatisfaction. However, looking at the whole country, this is not necessarily the case. Not all highly talented awakened people are willing to join the Extraordinary Administration. Perhaps they are biased against official organizations, or don't like to be controlled, or they have their own ambitions. These highly talented awakened people have not joined the Extraordinary Administration. They either work alone or establish an awakened organization to compete with the local Extraordinary Administration. The Extraordinary Administration adopts a tolerant policy towards these awakened persons and civil organizations, as long as they register and abide by the law. Luo Hui just didn't want to be controlled, so he didn't join the Extraordinary Administration. Instead, he established the Yunjing Society with a group of like-minded awakened people, whose main responsibility was to maintain the safety and stability of Yunjing City. Although it is not famous outside, it is extremely famous in this area. This time, Yunjingui was obliged to attack the disaster dungeon that appeared in the Luofeng Mountains, and Luo Hui also brought more than 20 of his strongest men there. Come on, Lao Luo, let me introduce you. Si Jimin, the captain of the Yunjing branch of the Extraordinary Management Bureau, enthusiastically pulled Luo Hui and introduced the people present to him. This is Guo Xingwu, the captain of the Changfeng City Management Bureau. Who is this? Because of the strong strength of Yunjing Hui and the weak strength of Yunjing branch, Si Jimin only led 7 people. Except for the Yunjing branch and the Yunjing Association, the people present were all from the Extraordinary Management Bureau and the Awakened organization in nearby cities. The Luofeng Mountain range spans several cities. When alien monsters arrive and swarm out from the cracks in space, they will inevitably threaten the safety of the surrounding cities. The landing location cannot be changed, but the disaster dungeon can be cleared in advance to reduce future threats. Therefore, as soon as the Extraordinary Administration took the lead, all the surrounding awakened organizations came. As far as I know, the best number of people to attack the disaster dungeon is 100 people. Luo Hui glanced at everyone with a sharp gaze, but I only saw 99 people along the way. There is another person. Where is he? Chapter 69, Part 1. As soon as Luo Hui said these words, the originally harmonious atmosphere suddenly came to a standstill. Ah, Lao Luo, you don't know something. This last person's situation is a bit special, Si Jimin quickly explained. However, before he finished speaking, he was interrupted. No matter how special you are, how can you be more special than my master? Why do you want so many of us to wait for him? Among the people Luo Hui brought, a strong man said with an unhappy face. Yes, President Luo is an SSS-level talent awakener. No sense of time at all, what quality? The people in Yunjingui spoke out one after another, as if Luo Hui and others were deeply wronged. Okay. Luo Hui raised his hand to stop the noise among his men, looked at the heads of the 3 branches, and showed dissatisfaction. Captain Division, Captain Guo, Captain Chen. Actually, I don't care. The one who entered the copy is 99 people or still 100 people, but what disappoints me is that from beginning to end, I only see you acting in a disorganized, chaotic, and irresponsible way. When it was clearly announced, it was said to be a 100-man operation, but now there are only 99 people. That's it. The key is the selection of team members. It is very random. There are too few people who can resist damage in melee, and there are too many people who can do long-range damage. Many. With all due respect, this kind of team configuration, which can be called a mob, will be overwhelmed in an instant when faced with the terrifying monster tied in the disaster dungeon, and the others will not even be able to survive for a minute to exit. I'm sorry, I have to be responsible for the lives of my apprentices and friends, because disaster copies can really kill people. If the supernormal administration just wants to find cannon fodder and intends to use our lives to weaken the number of monsters, then you have made the wrong idea. Hearing this, people from various awakened organizations had different expressions. Luo Hui's words undoubtedly touched their hearts. How could they not see the irrationality of team members? However, they are all small organizations, and their strength is far inferior to the extraordinary management bureaus in their respective cities. How can they not have the strong confidence of Yunjingui to dare to launch an attack? Yes, if the supernatural administration cannot come up with a reasonable explanation, don't blame us for withdrawing. We have shed blood for the stability of the city and contributed to the safety of the people. You cannot treat us like this. I want to see Director Jiang. Just when everyone was excited and wanted to ask for an explanation from the Chaofin Administration Bureau, Guo Xingwu, the captain of the Changfeng branch, suddenly shouted and suppressed everyone's voices. Let me make 2 points. Guo Xingwu said coldly. First, the assembly time has not come yet, so there is no sense of time. Second, the last person will be here soon. When he comes, what else do you have? If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and if you want to withdraw, our extraordinary administration will never stop you. Haha, what a grand display. I want to see who is coming. When that person comes, I must question him carefully. Don't think that the extraordinary administration can disregard human life. At the same time, 10,000 meters in the sky, Zhou Li stood at the open door of the plane, looking calmly down at a small dot-like dungeon portal. He is Luo Hui and others, the last person waiting. In this attack on the disaster dungeon, Zhou Li still did not accompany Jiang Yu and the others. Because it's not necessary. What a waste. Before reaching the full growth value, he can forcefully clear the dungeon by himself. After receiving the rewards of 5 difficult dungeons, his strength and physique have all increased to 40,000, and his agility and spirit have reached more than 30,000. With such powerful attributes, it shouldn't be too easy to sweep through the second-level disaster dungeon. If it weren't for the time-consuming task of searching for the missing alien monsters, he wouldn't have planned to take anyone with him. Now that he had brought them, Zhou Li followed the advice of the extraordinary administration and brought a group of 100 people. As for being divided into dungeon contributions, Zhou Li didn't mind too much. After all, even if there were 100 people, the dungeon contributions that could be taken away from him were extremely limited. Compared with the time saved, it was still acceptable. Jiang Yu and others were assigned to attack another disaster dungeon. As an official organization, the extraordinary administration naturally has its own responsibilities and will not leave all important responsibilities to Zhou Li. Chapter 69, Part 2. They sent out the top experts from the Extraordinary Management Bureau and went all out to attack the disaster copy. Originally, this behavior was very risky. Although the Extraordinary Management Bureau is powerful and has many powerful people, after all, except for Jiang Yu and others, there are no other second-level awakeners. In addition, cheaters are not allowed to exist. The risks they have to bear are much greater than those of Gao Tianyuan and Heaven's Gate, waiting for the awakened organization. However, after Jiang Yu and others were taken away by Zhou Li, these risks were immediately resolved. It is no exaggeration to say that Zhou Li is now the #1 awakener of Blue Star, and Jiang Yu and the others are the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Even He Yuqing, an E-level talent, can be among the top 10, because one force can defeat all laws. Their attribute values are too much higher than others. With the 4 of them as the main force, supplemented by the awakeners with SSS and SS-level talents from the Extraordinary Administration, and a reasonable team configuration, the conditions for conquering the second-level disaster dungeon have been met. Zhou Li naturally had no objection to the arrangements of the Extraordinary Administration. Before coming here, he thought about how to quickly integrate the team and get into the theme. Compared with Jiang Yu's team, which was composed entirely of elites, Zhou Li's team was composed of management bureaus and awakened organizations from nearby cities. The personnel were mixed and had different ideas. He wanted to integrate them into one. Not that easy. Not easy? That's someone else. For Zhou Li, it was very simple. That's it. After looking at the time, Zhou Li took a step forward. His body lost support and fell straight down, getting faster and faster. His lightness skill has long since broken through to the sophisticated level, which allows him to have stronger airborne ability and time. Even if he is falling rapidly, he can freeze instantly and reduce his speed to a safe level. However, at this time, Zhou Li had no intention of using the lightness skill at all. As Zhou Li fell 7,000 meters, the people below finally noticed the abnormality above their heads and raised their heads. They were horrified to see a black shadow falling from the sky with an extremely shocking momentum, like a meteorite falling from the sky, at an extremely fast speed. "What is that?" an awakened person shouted. Before anyone could reply, the black shadow had already crossed several thousand meters and landed in the woods hundreds of meters away. Boom! Like a spark hitting the earth, a terrifying explosion occurred in front of their eyes. In an instant, the ground shook, and the terrifying shock waves and air waves centered on the impact point and spread crazily in all directions. The forest was destroyed immediately, and the terrifying air waves blew across, immediately flying some awakened people with poor attributes. Luo Hui and others could still keep their figures steady, but their eyes were full of fear. At that moment, they even thought that the Extraordinary Administration had used heavy weapons to attack them. Chapter 70, Part 1. The air wave caused by the big explosion quickly disappeared. Everyone's minds were blank, and no one knew what happened, until they saw, out of the endless smoke and dust, a person they were very familiar with slowly walked out. Zhou Li. It turned out to be him. Luo Hui and others finally reacted. The moment he hit the ground, the life force field was automatically triggered, wiping out all the power from the ground. At this moment, Zhou Li looked very refreshed. Not at all like he had just completed an earth-shattering plunge in front of everyone. However, neither Luo Hui nor anyone else moved. Through the smoke and dust, they could see that behind Zhou Li was a huge, deep pit, covered with spiderweb-like cracks, some of which even extended to their feet. He plummeted from the sky and created such a big hole in the ground, but nothing happened. Is this AF*** king human being? Facing the stunned Luo Hui and others, Zhou Li said his first words, "I am Zhou Li, your captain." Looking across the crowd, the invisible suppression from the life level made Luo Hui and others look away involuntarily, not daring to look at Zhou Li. Then, Zhou Li said the second sentence. After entering the dungeon, I will push horizontally, you can do whatever you want. That's right, what Zhou Li wants is not an elite army to fight wherever, but just minions responsible for collecting leftovers. Therefore, it is enough to directly show strength and shock. Seeing that Zhou Li had no intention of talking anymore, Guo Xingwu and Si Jimin looked at each other, and they could see the excitement in each other's eyes. Okay, Zhou Li is already here. If you have any questions, please ask them immediately. If you want to withdraw, we will never stop you. Guo Xingwu said with a smile. Everyone else looked at Luo Hui. He is an SSS-level talent awakener and the strongest among the people present except Zhou Li. Doubt, what question? Luo Hui's face showed confusion. We Yunjing Club are solid allies of the Extraordinary Administration. We have fought side by side for many days and have already formed a deep friendship. Will the Extraordinary Administration harm us? Absolutely impossible. There are still people who want to quit. What do they think? Behind him, the people in Yunjingwi nodded like chickens pecking at rice. Ha ha ha, Master Luo is right. How could the Extraordinary Administration harm us? I'm just kidding, everyone is joking. After all, I'm about to enter the disaster dungeon, so I'm a little nervous. The other members of the awakened organization cursed secretly in their hearts, but were not slow at all in showing their loyalty. They also winked at Guo Xingwu and others to prevent them from actually going to the line and kicking them out. This is Zhou Li, the invincible existence of clearing the disaster dungeon alone. They all understood why the Extraordinary Administration behaved in such a disorganized and irresponsible manner, and the team configuration was unreasonable. The moment they saw Zhou Li appear, they all understood. With this great god here, there is no need for so many melee damage-resistant awakeners. If they had known that Zhou Li would be the last one standing, how could they have any grievances? Not to mention that the gathering time had not come yet. Even if they had to wait for a day and a half, it would not be a problem. Since no one quits then, seeing everyone's fawning looks, Si Jimin and others felt elated and happy, but they also knew who brought all this, and they all looked at Zhou Li in unison, waiting for his orders. Come in. Zhou Li nodded. With a flash of light, everyone disappeared and entered the copy. This disaster copy in the Luofeng Mountains was called the Ruined City. After Zhou Li and others entered, they suddenly appeared in the center of a square. This square is not small, covering an area of about 50,000 square meters. There are not many buildings. It is very empty and suitable for use as a battlefield, surrounded by tall buildings. Like Thunder Valley, the Ruined City is also a fragment of the world infected by evil spirits. Countless evil spirits linger on animals, plants, and buildings, and the dark sky makes it look particularly gloomy. Even everyone who had great confidence in Zhou Li became nervous. The few melee-type awakened ones emerged from the crowd, forming a flesh and blood city wall in front of the others. Luo Hui stood out from the crowd and stood at the front. A pair of fists glowing with black light covered his fists and arms. As he assumed a fighting stance, a powerful force spread out, giving everyone, especially the people of Yunjingwi, a great sense of security. Zhou Li stood there without speaking. At this time, the countdown ended and everyone officially entered the copy. Their expressions became tense, and they observed their surroundings vigilantly, not even missing the sky or the ground. Chapter 70, Part 2. There are so many alien monsters in the disaster dungeon, and soon they will face a wave of terrifying monsters that can overwhelm everything. However, what everyone did not expect was that the monster wave did not appear, and what greeted them was another attack. Bang! A muffled sound suddenly sounded. Immediately afterwards, a black light drew a diagonal line at an incredible speed and shot towards Luo Hui's head. It was so fast that even Luo Hui couldn't react. What made him even more desperate was that he could clearly hear that there was not just one muffled sound, but several firings at the same time. Because the time was so close, most people could not tell the difference. Not coming out. It was not only Luo Hui who was attacked, but also several awakened ones. Just when Luo Hui closed his eyes and waited for death, Zhou Li, who had been motionless, moved. Lung Yu's magic knife slashed out. Guo Xingwu and others who were standing further back saw a bolt of lightning instantly circle the square, and the black light that hit Luo Hui and others exploded. Bang bang bang, streams of black light continued to shoot out from the tall buildings around the square. However, no matter how tricky their angles were or how fast they did not pose any threat to Zhou Li. Luo Hui and others only saw thunder and lightning crisscrossing the square. Block all attacks. Suddenly, the lightning seemed to turn a corner because the speed was too fast, making people wonder if they were blinded. However, the next moment, a dilapidated high-rise building collapsed without warning. Thunder Shadow Step LV1+1. Quality: perfect. Type: active skills. You transform into lightning, travel thousands of miles in an instant, and your speed increases by 120%. Zhou Li's first perfect level skill, more than 30,000 agility, coupled with the 2.2 times increased speed of Thunder Shadow Step, showed its power beyond imagination at this moment. Luo Hui and others stood in a daze, watching the black light coming from a distance, but all of them were chopped into pieces by Zhou Li. Then, the decaying high-rise buildings around them collapsed one after another, turning into real ruins. For Zhou Li today, it is really easy to demolish the building. Before long, all the tall buildings with a radius of 1 kilometer were destroyed by Zhou Li, and the alien monsters hiding inside and attacking were also exposed. They were 3-meter-tall humanoid creatures with demonic aura lingering all over their bodies. Their arms were all tied with a thick barrel, which was fused with their flesh and blood. The black light was shot out from these flesh and blood barrels. The power is amazing. These humanoid creatures are all second level. Chapter 71, Part 1. For second-level humanoid creatures, ordinary building collapse will naturally not kill them. However, Zhou Li came and went, destroying the surrounding high-rise buildings, and also harvested the lives of some humanoid creatures. The rest, as long as he finds his figure, will not be able to escape. With Zhou Li's current strength, any alien monster in the ruined city, no matter what level it is, can be killed with just one blow. These humanoid creatures roared angrily. I can't fight again and again, and I can't escape. It was like they were playing a death game where they would die if they were discovered. They were extremely desperate. Even if other humanoids tried to contain Zhou Li and create opportunities for other humanoids to escape by attacking Luo Hui and others, it would be useless. Zhou Li's speed was too fast. The name of the perfect level Thunder Shadow Step has not changed, but its attributes have doubled. At only one level, it is faster than the full-level rare level Thunder Shadow Step. Coupled with his powerful attributes, he is able to come and go at will within a radius of 1 kilometer, as if teleporting. Whoever takes the lead will die. After Zhou Li killed all the humanoids that were exposed, the remaining humanoids no longer dared to show up. Shua, Zhou Li returned to his original place, and a streak of thunder extended from a distance. This was the trace of the powerful thunder power that escaped from his body after he activated the Thunder Shadow Step, intertwined with the air, and dissipated in the blink of an eye. Find them. Zhou Li glanced at Gua Xingwu and others. He is not a nanny. He brought so many people into the dungeon and tried to protect them as much as possible. Naturally, it was because there was a place where they could be used. Gua Xingwu and others recovered from the shock and took action quickly. Among the people they brought with them to manage the branch, there were several awakened people who were good at investigation. Looking at the horrific scene that looked like a disaster movie around them, these people swallowed hard and did not dare to neglect the movements of their hands to find the hiding humanoid creatures one by one. Naturally, the humanoid creatures within this kilometer range are not all the monsters in the dungeon. After they were all destroyed, countless cats, dogs, rats, birds, and other animals in the city that were haunted by demonic auras launched attacks from all directions, from heaven and earth. The monster wave is coming. These demonized animals are huge in size and have reached the first level of strength, which puts great pressure on Luo Hui and others. Fortunately, Zhou Li took action in time and blocked the demonized animals from most directions, allowing them to barely persevere. After the monster wave was cleared, the team slowly advanced, destroying all the buildings in sight, finding the humanoid creatures hidden inside and killing them one by one. For Zhou Li, there is no difficulty in this disaster dungeon. The key lies in how long it takes to kill all the alien monsters in the dungeon. The dungeon of Ruined City is slightly larger than Thunder Valley, but not much larger. 12 hours later, the system prompt sounded in everyone's ears. World announcement. Congratulations to Zhou Li, Luo Hui, and Gua Xingwu for clearing disaster dungeon. Ruined City, we won, ha ha ha. Wow, I survived. Great God Zhou Li is worthy of being Great God Zhou Li. I didn't expect that one day I would be announced to the world. I will have no regrets in this life. Everyone was extremely excited. This is a disaster copy, and they actually cleared it. Even though their role is insignificant, they can still be boasted about. We are so strong. Congratulations on clearing the disaster dungeon. Ruined City. Your contribution is 97%. Please choose whether to merge the world fragments into Blue Star or convert them into the origin of the world. Transformed into the origin of the world. Zhou Li did not hesitate. What's the point of coming to such a ruined and demonized city? Zhou Li noticed that there was nothing strange about Luo Hui and others. Apparently only he received this system prompt. He didn't know whether the contribution value was too small or whether he had to reach a certain standard before he could get the right to choose. What should be done if multiple people are given the right to choose and have disagreements over whether to merge the world fragments into Blue Star or convert them into the origin of the world? Vote? Zhou Li was thoughtful, but the team he led was unlikely to have the answer, but Jiang Yu's team might appear. After Zhou Li made his choice, everyone was teleported out of the dungeon. When the world fragments were transformed, they received a new system prompt. Chapter 71, Part 2. The world fragment has been successfully transformed, and its world origin has been absorbed by Blue Star. The Blue Star world will, in the process of being conceived, has a greater favorable impression of you. Don't you have the authority to choose? Zhou Li was not surprised, which was reasonable. After all, the requirements for upgrading to level 2 are definitely higher than level 1, not to mention that his contribution value is not yet 100%. Blue Star World will is being gestated? I just received a system prompt saying that Blue Star World will has paid attention to me. Exclamations continued, and it was obvious that they had also benefited. Without Zhou Li opening his mouth, Guo Xingwu and others directly tallied the results. 99 people received a total of 3% of the copy contribution, of which Luo Hui's contribution was 1%, and the total of all others was only 2%. Except for Luo Hui's system prompt that his favorability increased, everyone else is receiving attention. Attention, favor, authority. Zhou Li understood that these were the 3 attitude levels of the gestating Blue Star World will. If you contribute too little, you will only get the lowest attention. If you exceed 1%, you will probably have a favorable impression. When this favorable impression accumulates to a certain level, you will receive a gift from the will of the Blue Star World and unlock the corresponding permissions. Well enough. Zhou Li was still satisfied with the results of this 100-man group formation. The Thunder Valley took him more than 20 hours, a lot of which was wasted looking for monsters. Although his current strength has improved a lot compared to when he cleared the Thunder Valley, there is no 100-man group. High efficiency. After completing the Ruined City dungeon, Zhou Li rushed to the next disaster dungeon without stopping. The new disaster copy naturally has new teammates. This time, integrating the team was far easier than in the Luofeng Mountains, not only because there were no SSS-level Talon Awakeners as powerful as Luo Hui, but also because of the world announcement that sounded not long ago. Everyone knows that if you follow Zhou Li into the dungeon, you will not only be safe and worry-free, but you will also get the supreme honor announced by the world, as well as substantial benefits. Anyone who dares to question is afraid that someone else will blow his head off. When Zhou Li cleared the 3rd disaster dungeon, Jiang Yu and the others had just cleared the first one. Zhou Li still led a ragtag group of people. The huge gap in strength and efficiency between the two sides was evident from this. Subsequently, Jiang Yu and others' team was temporarily disbanded. It's not that they suffered heavy losses when attacking the disaster dungeon, but because the first level upgraded dungeon returned to normal. Sharpening the sword does not waste time chopping firewood. With strong men like Zhou Li constantly conquering disaster dungeons and solving their worries, the elites of the extraordinary administration can relax and focus on upgrading and second-level dungeons. First pass on. In this regard, Zhou Li is also happy to see the success. After all, in his eyes, these disaster copies are important resources. Chapter 72, Part 1. Brother Zhou Li. I can hang out with the boss again, hee. Outside the new disaster dungeon, Zhou Li met with Jiang Yu and others. Wu Qianqian and He Yuqing were all happy, while Jiang Yu and Shi Tongyan, who were relatively calm, also looked happy. It seems that your team is not going well? Zhou Li said with a smile. It's not just bad, it's downright dangerous. Wu Qianqian couldn't help complaining. Those guys are called elites, but in fact they are just a little better than the mob. Before entering the dungeon, they all asked for 2,500,000 to 80,000 yuan. It seemed like a disaster. The dungeon can be obtained easily, but once you encounter a wave of monsters when you enter, you will be overwhelmed. If we hadn't saved the situation, the whole army would have been wiped out. Qianqian, don't talk nonsense. Jiang Yu rolled her eyes and stopped Wu Qianqian's exaggerated remarks. Actually, it's not that unbearable. The main reason is the lack of experience in large-scale team fighting, and the lack of a strong person who can really suppress everyone and make them do what they want. Jiang Yu said something pertinent. The elites of the Extraordinary Management Bureau are strong, but they have always entered trial dungeons and upgrade dungeons for 5 people, and are extremely unsuitable for disaster dungeons with a scale of 100 people. The biggest difference between trial dungeons, promotion dungeons, and disaster dungeons is that one is fictional and the other is real. The first two can be entered countless times. No matter how powerful the boss is or how unique the mechanism is, it will be discovered and summarized through continuous strategies, and finally a detailed strategy will be formed. The latter is a one-time use, and the alien monsters in it are all real. The situations you encounter are likely to be completely different between the first time you enter and the second time you enter. There is no specific strategy for the disaster dungeon. You have to adapt to the actual situation, because the alien monsters on the opposite side will also collect their intelligence. If you are used to playing trial dungeons and upgrade dungeons with strategies, and then try to play a completely real disaster dungeon, you will naturally feel extremely uncomfortable. In addition, although Zhang Yu and others are powerful, in the eyes of others, they are far from being as powerful as Zhou Li. If they can convince everyone, the team will not be able to unite. Once in danger, the team quickly disintegrated and was reduced to a 5-person team fighting independently. Fortunately, Zhang Yu and the others were strong enough to turn the tide and resolve crisis after crisis. Even so, their first attack also ended in failure. The second time I went in, it was much better. The elites of the extraordinary administration, who had learned enough lessons, were united a lot, and their combat effectiveness improved a lot. In addition, in the first attack, they killed many alien monsters, which greatly reduced their pressure. With mutual cooperation, they finally killed them all. Kill the alien monsters in the dungeon and successfully passed the level. After the fight, the only feeling Zhang Yu and the other 4 felt was tiredness. It was much more tiring than following Zhou Li through 5 consecutive second-level trial dungeons. After all, when they work with Zhou Li, they can completely trust Zhou Li. If any crisis or difficulty arises, Zhou Li can easily solve it without having to think too much. Unlike this time, they were the big guys, but they didn't have Zhou Li's strength, so hard work was unavoidable. Therefore, the team was disbanded. Wu Qianqian and He Yuqing had been asking for it, and even Zhang Yu and Shi Tongyan quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Leading the team by yourself is not as fun as following Zhou Li. By the way, how did you choose after you cleared the level? Zhou Li asked about the rewards after clearing the level. Zhang Yu thought for a while. My dungeon contribution is 21%, and Shi Tongyan's contribution is 23%. Both of us received system prompts, allowing us to choose whether to merge into Blue Star or transform into World Origin. Qianqian is at 15%, Yuqing is at 11%, but they didn't receive the system prompt. Everyone else is below 10%, including those colleagues with SSS-level talents. So, it is very likely that more than 20% of people will have the right to choose. Zhang Yu's guess was reasonable, but Zhou Li always felt that something was wrong. What will happen if no one contributes more than 20%? Wu Qianqian asked curiously. According to my analysis, the biggest possibility is that the standard will be further lowered. For example, if you contribute 10%, you can get the option. If it still doesn't work, it will be reduced to 5%, and so on. Chapter 72, Part 2. Therefore, the reason why Sister Jiang and Brother Shi get the option, there is a certain possibility that it is because the standard has dropped. The real standard is more than 50% likely, just like Brother Zhou Li, it can be decided in one word. He Yuqing analyzed, there are no people who contribute more than 50%. If the standard is lowered by one step, if someone can get 30% contribution, Sister Jiang and Brother Shi should not receive the system prompt. Yuqing still sees clearly. Zhang Yu praised and expressed his approval. It makes sense. Shi Tongyan also said, what's the point of figuring this out? Wu Qianqian was a little confused. It still makes sense. Zhang Yu looked a little serious. Because there are 2 options. At present, it seems that there is no danger in converting the world fragments into the world's origin and being absorbed by Blue Star, but the other option has unknown risks. I don't know the significance of this option. It may have great benefits, but it's better not to choose this option until we are fully prepared. We can guarantee that we will not choose randomly, but we cannot guarantee that there will not be people with ulterior motives. Therefore, the best way is to understand the mechanism of the right to choose and ensure that the final result will not get out of control. Well, the boss shouldn't mess around, Wu Qianqian said weakly. Zhou Li smiled and shook his head. Then it's over. Is it possible that we can still control it abroad? Abroad has nothing to do with us. Zhang Yu hit her angrily. Don't just look at the present. The disaster will not only be this ghost-level disaster, but new disaster copies will also appear when the time comes. Don't we? It's all up to Zhou Li to solve it alone? Wu Qianqian had a headache. She didn't have Zhang Yu's long-term vision. I don't care about these. I only care about when I can get into the book and get the permission to make a lot of money every day. As she said this, her eyes brightened. In the last dungeon, she only received 15% of the contribution. She only gained the favor of the Blue Star World Will, and was still far from being granted permission. She was very motivated for her dream of making money while lying down. Zhou Li laughed dumbly, waved his hand, and started to enter the book with the group of 100 people who had been waiting for a long time. With the entry of Zhang Yu and others, the speed of clearing the disaster dungeon was faster. Correspondingly, Zhou Li's contribution also declined, but he still maintained an absolute advantage of 90%. There are a total of 12 copies of the disaster in the Xia Kingdom, distributed across the country, and a total of 30 copies of the disaster have been found around the world. Xia Kingdom accounted for nearly half. At the beginning, countries such as Sakura Country and White Eagle Country were all gloating over misfortune. There were only 2 or 3 disaster copies in their countries at most, so the pressure was much less than that of Xia Country. But when Zhou Li started attacking the disaster dungeon, he could hear world announcements about clearing the level every day, sometimes even twice a day. The number of disaster copies in Xia's country was decreasing day by day, but the number of disaster copies in his own country remained motionless. They started to panic. Chapter 73, Part 1. The countdown to the ghost-level disaster is decreasing day by day, like a death knell. If the disaster dungeon is not solved in advance, when the time comes, they will face the disaster dungeon and the alien monsters from other worlds coming to attack. No one wants this kind of double surprise. More and more people are yelling at the incompetence of their top teams. At this time, in Sakura, China, Nobuo Miyamoto made a public appearance and broadcast it simultaneously on the internet. During the live broadcast, Nobuo Miyamoto was very sincere. Together with the main members of the Amaterasu team, he first gave a 90-degree bow to the people of the country, fully demonstrating the craftsmanship of Sakura country. He first admitted the shortcomings of his own strength, and then analyzed the serious situation facing Sakura country. Finally, he called on the Sakura people to take out the spare attribute crystals and provide them to the Amaterasu team first, so that their strength can grow enough to clear the disaster dungeon. Nobuo Miyamoto solemnly promised that he would always be on the front line against alien monsters and would never betray the trust of the Sakura people. It has to be said that as the only SSS-level talent awakener in Sakura country, Nobuo Miyamoto has many fans in Sakura country. His promise also moved a large number of Sakura citizens, and they all took out their own attribute crystals. Those who did not have attribute crystals took the initiative to enter the dungeon and earn attribute crystals. Seeing that Nobuo Miyamoto's call was so effective, people from other countries followed suit. Although the effect was not as good as Nobuo Miyamoto's, they also gained a lot. A few days later, the confident Miyamoto Nobuo led the Amaterasu team to form a powerful 100-man group, preparing to attack the disaster dungeon located on the highest mountain of Sakura country. He started the live broadcast in a high-profile manner and held an impassioned swearing-in ceremony before entering the instance. Just when the ambitious Nobuo Miyamoto was about to enter the company, suddenly, a piece of news came over, which made Nobuo Miyamoto's face instantly gloomy to the extreme. A fisherman discovered a huge portal hundreds of meters high in the sea hundreds of miles away in the east of Sakura country. That is, a third-level disaster copy. No one cares about Nobuo Miyamoto's actions anymore. Everyone's eyes are attracted to the third-level disaster copy. Another half-day passed. Deep in the western desert of Xia Kingdom, a third-level disaster copy was also discovered. Global uproar. Level 3 disaster copy. Zhou Li, who had just cleared a disaster dungeon, heard the news as soon as he came out and couldn't help but feel a little headache. It's really bad news. To say it was an accident, it was definitely a bit unexpected, but Zhou Li couldn't really tell whether it was reasonable or not. After all, the upcoming ghost-level disaster has a third level, so theoretically, a copy of the disaster formed from a part of that world should also have a third level. No matter what, it's a good thing to meet with level 3 in advance. Zhou Li was looking forward to it. He has no doubt that there will be a third-level dungeon of extremely difficult difficulty. After all, even high difficulty has a second-level dungeon that exceeds the level of the dungeon, not to mention this higher difficulty. Being able to fight against Tier 3 will be beneficial to his future promotions. Zhang Yu and Wu Qianqian all looked at Zhou Li and found that there was no fear on his face when he heard the bad news. They immediately breathed a sigh of relief. To be honest, they heard that a third-level disaster copy was discovered in the West Desert. They were really shocked. Scared. Xia Kingdom has many places to visit, and they are already under great pressure. Now there is a third-level disaster dungeon. First clear all the second-level disaster dungeons, and then we'll go meet the third-level disaster dungeon for a while. Zhou Li said calmly. Everyone nodded. Hee, I think Nobuo Miyamoto is a bit miserable. He used to be robbed of the limelight by us, but now he is robbed of the limelight by the third-level disaster copy. Wu Qianqian said with a smile. A copy of the third-level disaster appeared in the eastern sea of Sakura Kingdom. They have a headache. He Yuqing also said. The disaster dungeon was very close to the place of arrival. What appeared there was not only a third-level disaster dungeon, but also an extremely huge passage entrance. The alien monsters that come out of there will be the first to attack the Sakura Kingdom. Even the White Eagle and other countries located in the western continent will not be spared. Of course, once the Sakura Kingdom is destroyed, the Xia Kingdom will have to face it. The threat to these alien monsters. Chapter 73, Part 2. Our situation is not much better. Zhang Yu frowned. The threat from the western desert is also not small. How many attributes do you think Nobuo Miyamoto has now? Wu Qianqian asked curiously. It must be tens of thousands. It's hard to tell how much it is exactly, He Yuqing said. It's such a small amount, such a big movement. I thought it was at least hundreds of thousands or millions. Wu Qianqian was stunned. This is it. The people of Sakura country are not able to help. Human nature is complex. No matter how much Miyamoto Nobuo confuses people, he cannot get everyone to dedicate themselves to him. When it comes to his own vital interests, he can only inspire a small number of people. Zhang Yu explained. And do you think attribute crystals are so easy to use? The vast majority of people in the Sakura country do not have the strength to download dungeons. If they want to get attribute crystals, they can only rely on strong people to bring them. In a situation where 1 drags 4, you also know how low the attribute crystal drop rate is. If we adopt a completely squeezing method and don't treat people as human beings, the number of attribute crystals obtained will indeed increase sharply. But now, the order has not collapsed. Miyamoto Nobuo and the others cannot do this yet. They rely on people to consciously create copies. How efficient can it be? It would be great if our Xia country also did this. We have more people and stronger strength, and can produce many strong people who are not weak. Wu Qianqian said with emotion. Qianqian, Zhang Yu said with a serious expression. 1,000-mile embankment was destroyed by an ant nest. We must keep the bottom line, otherwise, after tasting the sweetness, we will inevitably turn into cheaters. We will not care about normal attribute crystal transactions, but this kind of behavior must not be done. Wu Qianqian was so frightened by Zhang Yu's serious look that she shrank her neck and did not dare to say any more. Zhou Li said nothing. He quite agreed with Zhang Yu's statement. Another day later, all the second-level disaster dungeons in Xia's country were breached. Zhou Li, who had made a lot of contributions, gained a lot. Every time he chose the authority, he chose excellence. At this time, his authority for excellence had been raised to 3. Level 4 is not far away. It is worth mentioning that the permission to make money every day does not take effect on all disaster copies he clears. A level 1 Regine Dojin can only choose one of the disaster dungeons he has cleared to obtain the converted dungeon benefits. As for what will happen to the Regine Dojin at level 2 and later, Zhou Li did not choose this route. Unknown. Let's go to the Western Desert. Zhou Li glanced at the people around him and said with a smile, "It's time to meet the 3rd-level disaster copy." Chapter 74, Part 1. Western Desert. The sky is filled with yellow sand, and the desert is endless. This is an inaccessible desert, desolate. So it is normal that the 3rd-level disaster copy that appears here has not been discovered for a long time. The same goes for the 3rd-level disaster dungeon in the Eastern Sea area of Sakura Kingdom. The location is too remote, otherwise, it would have been discovered long ago. On a high-speed plane, Zhou Li flipped through the information in his hand. When conquering the 3rd-level disaster dungeon, the weak awakeners were of no use at all. Therefore, Zhou Li directly disbanded the previous team and only brought Zhang Yu and others along with him. The information in his hand comes from the Extraordinary Management Bureau. There is very little information, only basic information, but nothing about the situation inside the copy. This is obviously unreasonable. The level 3 disaster dungeon cannot be overemphasized. Before they formally attack, it is the right decision to send some awakened people with particularly strong life-saving abilities to investigate as much information as possible. But as he continued to read, Zhou Li immediately understood what was going on. Different from trial dungeons and upgrade dungeons, disaster dungeons have a cooling time. The cooling time of the 2nd-level disaster dungeon is 1 day, while the cooling time of the 3rd-level disaster dungeon in the West Desert is actually 7 days. 7 days. Zhou Li took a breath. In a few days, he would be ready to advance to the advanced dungeon. He couldn't wait as long as 7 days. In other words, he only had one chance. If it cannot be solved at once, there will be no chance. Zhou Li doesn't think that, except for himself, Xiagua has the ability to solve this 3rd-level disaster copy. When the time comes, it will inevitably come with the ghost-level disaster. There is no room for error. Zhou Li shook his head slightly. His original plan was to go into the dungeon first, find out the monsters in it, and preferably kill enough alien monsters, reduce the strength of the dungeon, and then exit. The second time, he would lead a large group of people to enter and defeat this place in one fell swoop. Copy. This plan is definitely ruined now. Take a look. Zhou Li handed the information to Zhang Yu and the others. Zhang Yu had already seen it, but Wu Qianqian and the others had not, and her expression suddenly changed at this sight. The plan has changed. The large-scale army operation will definitely not be possible. I am not sure that I can protect too many people. Therefore, it is better not to have too many people entering this camp with me. Zhou Li said solemnly. The 4 of them were silent for a while. The strength of the 3rd-level disaster copy is unknown. If we speculate based on the situation of the 2nd-level disaster copy, I am afraid that the number of 3rd-level alien monsters will not be small. Even if there are not tens of thousands, the number of dozens or hundreds cannot be underestimated. Look, coupled with the high probability of 1st-order and 2nd-order alien monsters, this copy is too dangerous for us. Zhang Yu's tone was very serious. She looked at He Yuqing and Shi Tongyin. Yuqing, brother Shi, please don't go. Don't be arrogant. It's not worth it to die in the disaster dungeon. We understand. He Yuqing and Shi Tongyin did not persist. It was not a desperate situation now, and it was not time for them to show off as heroes. That's it. I, Qianqian, plus a member of the Extraordinary Administration, a total of 3 people, will enter the dungeon with you, Zhou Li. Zhang Yu looked at Zhou Li and gave the reason for such a choice. I have with certain auxiliary abilities, Qianqian has a strong life-saving ability. After she is promoted to the second level, she can take 2 people to move in space at a time. When encountering a dangerous situation, she can take me and that person to escape together. As for the last person, she has an extremely rare soul talent, the Zhou Li, SS level, which can obtain the target's memory through resonance at the soul level when the target loses consciousness. We need to understand what the world behind these alien monsters is like. Although Lin Ming can provide information, but the information he provides can only be used as a reference. The top leaders will not believe a reborn person without reservation, not to mention that his information is not complete. For example, Lin Ming knows nothing about the disaster copies. The 2 large channels in the eastern sea area of Sakura Country and the western desert of Xia Country did not appear in the previous life. The ghost-level disasters composed of demonized monsters are very different in the previous and current lives. Eye of the Soul. Zhou Li's expression moved slightly, and he nodded in agreement. Chapter 74, Part 2. He was also very curious about the world behind the demonized monsters. To be honest, he now doubts whether these disaster copies of Blue Star are really from the same world. After all, the gap between some disaster copies is too big. Like the ruined city, it is a modern background with high-rise buildings, but the Thunder Valley is different. The alien monsters in it have magical elements. There is also a disaster copy, which contains the well-known elves. Of course, it is a demonized version. How do these fragments of different styles exist together? Look! Suddenly, Wu Qianqian pointed outside and exclaimed. Zhou Li looked and saw that the space in front of him was rippling like water waves, stretching for dozens of miles. Through these water waves, he could occasionally see the layers of black on the opposite side, and he didn't know what they were. The place where time and space are distorted. It is also the place where alien monsters descend. This range is really large. Wu Qianqian's face turned pale. The place where time and space are distorted here is much wider than those second-level disaster copies, which means that when the time comes, how wide will the space channel opened here be, and how many alien monsters will pour in? Zhou Li looked down. At this time, the scene below was bustling with activity, with planes taking off and landing one after another. On the ground, there were several continuous streams of traffic, and a large amount of supplies were transported over. One after another, defensive positions were established 100 miles away from the time-space distortion. In Xia, other disaster copies were also building defensive fortifications, but the scale was far less than here. Why do I look like they are not preparing to surround the landing site? He Yuqing looked for a while and found a blind spot. There is no time, and the defense pressure is too great. Zhang Yu explained, so, only defensive positions were established on the east side. For other directions, we have notified the corresponding countries. Whether we can block it or not, we will have to pray for our own luck. Just like the landing site in the eastern waters of Sakura Country, the threat is not only to Sakura Country, but also to White Eagle Country, Maple Leaf Country, and other countries. Here in the West Desert, the threat is not only to Xia Country. The plane passed the fortifications and stopped in front of a jade portal hundreds of meters high. The demonic energy lingering on the portal of this dungeon is as black as ink, and the light circle around the dungeon is also much larger than that of the second-level disaster dungeon. It is estimated that thousands of people can stand on it. Obviously, the third-level disaster dungeon is a 1,000-person dungeon. Unlike other disaster dungeons, this disaster dungeon is heavily guarded, and a large number of detection instruments are constantly detecting the vicinity. The Supernatural Administration also sent strong men to monitor it by various means to prevent people with ulterior motives from sneaking in, so that the dungeon enters a 7-day cooling period. Chapter 75, Part 1. Zhou Li's plane landed far away, and after some verification, they were released. Brother Zhou Li, we won't go in. He Yuqing waved her hand and said goodbye to them. If they don't enter the dungeon, there is no point in going there. That's fine. Zhou Li nodded. In a flash of light, He Yuqing and Shi Tongyan disappeared, apparently entering the dungeon. I should have gone to attack the difficult dungeon with those guys, Zhang Yu said with a smile. In the past few days, many awakened people in Xia Kingdom have passed the upgrade dungeon and successfully promoted to the second level. With their efforts, they have all won the first pass of the second-level dungeon in the normal difficulty. The difficult dungeons are also being conquered, but the progress is very slow. I have only won the first pass of 2 difficult dungeons. Seeing that the cooldown of the dungeon of Miyamoto Nobuo and other cheaters was about to end, they didn't care so much anymore and asked Zhang Yu and others for help. Although the dungeon reward was affected because the growth value was full, it was still better than the first pass reward. It would be better if it falls into the hands of Nobuo Miyamoto and others. Zhang Yu and the others took some time to help out, cleared 1 or 2 difficult dungeons, and then left the team alone. At present, Xia Kingdom already has several top teams that can pass difficult dungeons. Even though they can barely pass the level, they are still very impressive. With their efforts, it is estimated that more than half of the difficult first passes will be obtained in the end. There are not many difficult first passes left, and with too many monks and too little food, Nobuo Miyamoto and others are not satisfied with the rewards, which can be regarded as a severe blow to these cheaters. It's a pity that the penalty for full growth is too severe now, otherwise it would be difficult to get them in the first round. Wu Qianqian was a little helpless. At level 0, with full growth, normal clearance rewards are greatly reduced, and first pass rewards are not affected. At level 1, you can only get half of the first pass rewards, and at level 2, it is even less, with only a quarter left. Obviously, the dungeon mechanism is to allow more people to get the first pass reward, rather than being dominated by one person or one team. The further it goes, the more obvious it becomes. If this continues, maybe you won't be able to get the first pass reward after reaching full growth. Here, let me introduce her. Her name is Gu Yusin, and she is the last person in our team. Zhang Yu pulled a black-haired girl over. She is the awakened person with SS-level talent, Eye of the Soul. Gu Yusin's appearance was not stunning, but she was the type of Zygia BU. She looked relatively weak, and her eyes were dark, like a bottomless whirlpool, making people unable to help but take a few more glances. Sister Qianqian. Gu Yusin said hello to Wu Qianqian first, but when she arrived at Zhou Li, she hesitated. In private, they call Zhou Li, naturally, a master or a boss, but in person, she is too thin-skinned to shout out, and Zhou Li is not a member of the Extraordinary Management Bureau, so it is difficult to live up to his position. Call me Zhou Li or Brother Zhou. I should be older than you. Zhou Li noticed her troubles, waved his hand, and said casually, Brother Zhou. Gu Yusin's face turned red. Wu Qianqian came up, hugged her, and said with a smile, Don't be afraid, Exiner. Mr. Zhou Li is very easy to get along with. They met a few days ago when they were leading a team alone to attack the disaster dungeon. Gu Yusin was one of the few elites of the Extraordinary Management Bureau who performed well. Wu Qianqian, who was familiar with her, was already familiar with her at that time. Exiner. The name Wu Qianqian made Zhou Li's expression flutter slightly. He remembered that the assassin had called Shiner when he stabbed him with a knife, but he quickly shook his head. That matter has been concluded, and there are at least 1.8 million women with Xian in their names in the Xia Kingdom. Enter the book. Zhou Li walked to the aperture of the copy and started communicating. Whether to enter the disaster copy. The primitive forest, warning. The disaster copy is a real scene. Once you die, you cannot be resurrected, warning. This copy has a cooling time. Once it is opened, it must be at least 7 days before you can enter again, warning. After successfully clearing this dungeon, it will be converted into a trial dungeon or an upgraded dungeon, except for the dungeon name and cooling time. The system prompts were no different from other disaster dungeons. Zhou Li chose to enter without hesitation. With a flash of light, the 4 people disappeared immediately. At the same time, Xinhai City, Extraordinary Management Bureau. Chapter 75, Part 2. Bang! The door to the director's office was kicked open, and Lin Ming walked in with a cold face. Lin, Consultant Lin? Liao Xiefeng stood up nervously. This was the first time he saw Lin Ming's face look so ugly. Why did Gu Yusin enter the dungeon? Lin Ming slammed his hands on the desk with anger on his face. The Xia Kingdom attaches great importance to the third-level disaster dungeon in the West Desert. In addition to being heavily guarded, it also has various surveillance systems. Lin Ming is a consultant of the Extraordinary Management Bureau and has permission to watch the video. Just now, he saw from the surveillance camera, the person who entered the dungeon with Zhou Li was someone he was extremely familiar with. Gu Yusin? Liao Xiefeng's face was full of questions. He was the deputy director of a local branch, and his powers were quite limited. That is to say, he had some power and the right to know about matters related to Lin Ming and Zhou Li. Others were simply beyond his ability. He had never heard of who Gu Yusin was. After finding out the whole story from Lin Ming, Liao Xiefeng quickly asked his superiors and soon got the answer. It was Gu Yusin's initiative. Her soul talent will fall into a long cooling period after soul resonance. Rather than using the opportunity on second-level alien monsters, it is far better to use it on stronger third-level alien monsters. The benefits will be greater, Liao Xiefeng explained carefully. According to the information, Lin Ming and Gu Yusin had no connection at all, but seeing Lin Ming's reaction now, the relationship between the two must not have been simple in his previous life. Lin Ming stood there stunned for a long time before smiling bitterly. That's her style. How could he not know that Gu Yusin had a tough soul hidden under her weak appearance? In her previous life, she was very independent, and not just a little girl who only obeyed others. It's just that caring leads to chaos. No matter what, if something happens to Gu Yusin, Lin Ming turned around and left, but in the end he didn't say any harsh words. Primitive Forest. Zhou Li looked at the surrounding environment. The copy was called the Primitive Forest, but what he saw was a decaying forest. Countless dark demonic energies floated between heaven and earth. Under the intrusion of the evil spirit, a large number of plants died, and those that barely survived grew into strange shapes and full of distortion. There were no traces of alien monsters nearby, but none of the 4 dared to relax. Not all entry points are in the monster pile. Sometimes, you need to advance a certain distance before you encounter alien monsters, and attract a wave of monsters. When the 1-minute preparation time was over, Zhou Li saw that there was no danger, and after telling Jiang Yu and the 3 girls to hide, he jumped up and immediately rose into the sky, getting higher and higher, straight into the sky.